Call to order, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're waiting for me. Yeah. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Looks like we're going to have a good short meeting tonight. And I appreciate one of our staff members providing pizza and everything after this is all over. That's a good call, right? Okay. All right. Well, let's get started. Let me do a quick roll call, shall I? I am here. Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Stork?
Present.
Mr. Gutschalk?
Here.
Mr. Spink?
Here.
Mr. Tysted?
Here.
Mr. Owens?
Here.
Mr. Skeet?
Here.
Mr. Clemens?
Present.
Mr. Rosenthal? Okay, make a note, Stephen's out tonight. Okay. We have 8 here tonight for voting. All right. Give me just a second. I'm missing a page in my book. Give me just a second here. That's all right. All right. Do we have an approval of the minutes? Everybody get a chance to read through the minutes of our last meeting?
Yeah, so moved.
All right. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Stork?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschalk?
Yes.
Mr. Spink?
Yes.
Mr. Tysted?
Yes.
Mr. Owens?
Abstain. Absent.
That's right. Thank you. Mr. Skeet?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
All right. Let's show we have 7. Vote approval of the night. Approval of minutes. Do I have a motion for the approval of tonight's? I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Secretary's report.
All right.
Thank
Good
you.
evening, commissioners. On your agenda today, you have 3 items on the consent agenda. Of course, if you approve the agenda, those items will automatically be approved. On your regular agenda, you have 2 plat exceptions and then an SUP. We also have on the agenda a study session for the comprehensive plan. We will try and make that as short as possible. Otherwise, I just wanted to tell you, if you didn't notice the large stack of paper sitting at your chairs when you got here, that is information that was provided after the agenda packet was sent to you for the SUP case. So hopefully you have enough time to glance through that as well. Other than that, staff doesn't have anything else for today.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Do I have any declarations for tonight? Okay. Well, that said, do I have an approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. Let me call roll. Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Stork?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschalk?
Yes.
Mr. Spink?
Yes.
Mr. Tysted?
Yes.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Skeet?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Show 7-0 approval of tonight's agenda. Go to 9A, our first agenda tonight. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV 24-147. This is a final plot for Cheyenne Crossing as outlined in your posted agenda. This is not a public hearing. Planning staff report.
All right. Case DEV 24-147 is a request to complete a final plat for the second phase of the Cheyenne Crossing subdivision. It is a 13-lot phase. You guys have already approved the preliminary plat. However, during the design of the final stage of the final plat, some of the lot lines changed, and so one of the lots, Lot 9, had to reduce its frontage at the right-of-way and is no longer compliant. Now, it is on the curve of a road, and so the applicant is requesting an exception to allow for you guys to consider the building setback line the frontage. So just like a cul-de-sac lot, it isn't measured at the right-of-way line, it's measured at the building setback line, which is compliant with the request. They have more than 200 feet at the building setback line. The applicant is in attendance if you have any questions for him. However, staff provided the full analysis in the staff report for your review.
Looks good.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to speak? Is the applicant feeling better tonight? Good to see you, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Any other additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
All right. Are there questions, comments from the members of the commission? So we have 3 actions on this one, right? We're tracking? 2 exceptions, 2 exceptions, and approval of a final plat.
Just one exception.
One exception.
Did I get one too many? I wrote one down too many.
Yeah.
I know there's one on the setback and the curvature of the road, like you said, but
Yeah, that's just the one. They're requesting the width be measured at the building setback line.
okay,
instead of
thanks.
frontage.
All right, well, I wrote down too many. Okay. All right, so we have one exception, and then we have the plat itself. Okay. Well, I'll entertain a motion to approve the exception for the Leavenworth County Planning Commission for the case DEV 24-147, Cheyenne Crossing, as posted agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I hereby recommend that we approve an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3.A, lots compliant with the zoning width standards in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 24-147 as submitted by the application and based on a finding that all 3 criteria for the exception have been met.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? This is for the exception. All right, I'll call roll. Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Stork?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Mr. Spink?
Yes.
Mr. Tysted?
Yes.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Skeet?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Okay, let the record show 7-0 for the approval. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, 8. Sorry about that. Let the record show 8. Approval to 0 for the exception. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the plat, the final plat for Cheyenne Crossing as outlined in the posted agenda.
Mr. Chairman, again, I find that the subdivision request does comply with the zoning and subdivision regulations and move to recommend final approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV 24-147 based on the recommendation of the planning staff, and the finding is set forth in the staff report.
Thank you.
It
I'll
just
second.
pops off the top of my head.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Tysted. Thank you, Mr. Clemens, for the second. Any discussion? I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion on the final plat? All right, let me call roll. Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Stark?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Mr. Spink?
Yes.
Mr. Tysted?
Yes.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Skeet?
Yes.
And Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Let the record show the motion is carried for the final plat by a vote of 8-0. Go to 9 Bravo. Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV 24-157 and 158, a preliminary and final plat for Elston Estates Number 2 as outlined in the posted agenda.
I'm sorry.
This is not a public hearing. Planning staff report.
All right, case DEV 24-157-158 is a request for preliminary and final plat approval for Elston Estates Number 2. This is a 5-lot subdivision located just outside of the city of Tonganoxie. This subdivision, as you can see, has a rather large pond towards the center of it. They are proposing to put that pond in a tract of land, but due to the shape of the pond, it is going to create an irregularly shaped lot for Lot 1. That lot is still compliant in regards to lot frontage and lot area for its zoning district, which is RR5. However, because of the unusual shape of the lot, an exception must be granted by this body for this plat to go through. Otherwise, the rest of the lots are compliant also with the zoning district standards of the RR5, and it has been reviewed by all entities and has been found to otherwise be in compliance with the zoning and subdivision regulations. If you have any other questions, please let me know, but the applicant is in attendance as well.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Does the applicant wish to speak?
No, thank you.
It's good to see you again tonight. Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Questions or comments from the members of our commission?
Well, you know there are.
I'm sorry?
You know there are.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is currently zoned at RR5,
Five.
correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But it's also in County Road 1.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so what was the future land use proposed for it under County Road 1?
If you recall, this actually was rezoned a couple months ago. It was originally zoned PR2, so Planned Residential 2. That is a moderate density residential zoning district that was part of the County Road 1 rezoning. They had requested to revert back to RR5, which I believe was their zoning before County Road 1 was rezoned. And you guys and the Board of County Commissioners agreed that that would be the best move for this piece of land. Part of the reasoning is utilities aren't yet to this site, and it would take some time before that
I
occurred.
thought that was the property next door to the west that we did that particular case on.
No, there was another one that was a much smaller lot, but it's an entirely different area.
Okay.
If that's the one you might be thinking of.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from the commission? Okay. All right. Well, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the exception for the case DEV 24-157 and 158, preliminary and final plat for Elston Estates Number 2, as outlined in the posted agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I hereby recommend we approve an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3.d, irregular shaped lot in conformance with the zoning subdivision regulations for case DEV 24-157158 as submitted by the application based on the findings that all three criteria for an exception has been met.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. I have a motion and a second on the floor. Do I have any discussion from the commission? Questions, concerns on the motion? Okay. I'll call roll. Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Stork?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschalk?
Yes.
Mr. Spink?
Yes.
Mr. Tysted?
Yes.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Skeet?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Okay. Let the record show the motion is carried by a vote of 8-0 for the exception. All right. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the final plat. As stated, DEV 24-157 and 158, final plat for Elston Estates number 2.
Mr. Chairman, I find that the subdivision request complies with the zoning and subdivision regulations and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV 24-157 and 158 based on the recommendation of the planning staff and the findings as set forth in the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I've got a second. I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion of the motion? All right, I'll call roll. Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Gusshot?
Yes.
Mr. Spink?
Yes.
Mr. Tysted?
Yes.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Skeet?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Let the record show. The motion is carried by a vote of 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than March 26, 2025 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. All right, we go to our last agenda item for tonight. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV-24-125, a special use permit for an amusement park, commercial athletic fields, racetrack, circuses, carnivals, and fairgrounds for outdoor events for RJ Farm as outlined in the posted agenda. Public comment portion is limited to 5 minutes. Please don't make me be the bad person. It's 5 minutes. There'll be a clock up here running. When the clock goes off, please stop because we can no longer hear you anymore. You have 5 minutes. You'll only get to come up and speak one time, not repeated. So please support us in these instructions. The planning staff now give a staff report, please.
Okay. Case DEV 24-125 is a special use permit for RJ Farm. And again, I just want to rephrase, this is a request for a fairgrounds, an outdoor fairgrounds. I know that commercial athletic fields, we're talking about fairgrounds. This request you guys have already heard at your January meeting. However, the Board of County Commissioners did review this in a February meeting, and they had received additional information that they felt that was important for you guys to also consider. So they directed staff to open a second public hearing for this item so that additional information could be heard by this body and you guys could reconsider the request. They did not have any direction, and Missy may correct me if I'm wrong, about the factors that you considered, but more about the information. I believe John's going to discuss that.
Yes, please, John.
Thank you. Commissioners. This case was sent back to you. Oh, I don't know. Can you hear me now?
You have to move it closer.
Oh. All right.
There you go. Take the remote one. There you go.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners. This item was sent back to you tonight on a motion from the February 12th meeting of the County Commission. That motion included several conditions, additional conditions that the County Commission would have liked you to consider tonight. Those conditions included the certification of security on site at these events with by a paid either off-duty sheriff's officer or other private security being available during the events, whether or not to require a licensed alcohol vendor to be on site when there was the sale of alcohol on site, specifically relating to alcohol being provided to minors at these events. Certification that the events were taking place in accordance with Kansas law, making sure that there was no violation of the law taking place during these events. A certification that all of the animals at the events complied with any state registration or vaccination requirements. I think most of that concern was related to animals coming from out of state, making sure that they had all of the proper paperwork. An assurance that no tail pulling or horse tripping occurred in these events, so that these events were not in violation of the Kansas Animal Cruelty Statute. There was concerns about to consider about the bleachers. They wanted to consider requiring a engineering study of the structural engineering of the bleachers. There was a comment made about the bleachers being handmade and being worried about their structural integrity at these events. There was a concern of raising the insurance requirement. The $1 million insurance policy may or may not be enough, and then a concern about if a vet was needed on site during these events.
What's needed on site?
A licensed veterinarian.
Yeah, licensed veterinarian on site.
Yep.
Okay, Commissioners, I know that this is not your typical instruction that comes back. So in proceeding on this, we have a public hearing that has to be open and closed, and these were considerations the Commission asked you to think about when you are making your determination. That doesn't mean you have to say yes or no on any of them. These are considerations they've asked for you to think about during the public hearing.
So may I ask, in our consideration then, is the intent of the BOCC that these would be added conditions? Because we already have some 18 or 19 conditions that we placed on our approval the last time before we had all this information. So are they looking at these as added conditions should we go forward to recommend approval? Are they just asking us to consider them in the discussion tonight?
Correct. They're asking you to consider it during the public hearing as more information is going to come out. It doesn't mean that all of these, in no way does this mean that they're directing this board to add these conditions. They're asking you to consider it, and if, based on what you hear at the public hearing, you think they have merit, you could ask, make a motion one way or the other with additional conditions.
Okay.
Why didn't they have this information before? Who presented all this new information, and how do we just reopen the thing? We spent a lot of time on this. And we made our motion, and we passed it. And we get this back with, isn't there a timeline for people to enter their concerns and make their comments? Isn't that a standard procedure?
Yes, there is definitely a timeline for comments to come in. If you recall that we did have this public hearing in January when a lot of places were closed down because of the snow. The Commission heard a lot of complaints that people weren't able to attend the public hearing and make the public comments that they wanted. And in light of that and concerns that came forward, they thought it merited a new public hearing.
Well, the BOCC overrides us all the time on deals. It feels like they just threw this back in our lap for us to put additional stipulations. We gave them a page full of stipulations. We argued for a 1-year SUP that we can void at the end of 1 year.
Or any time in the year.
Or any time within that time period. I don't know what more we can do to say, hey, you've been a bad boy in the past, but we want you to do the right thing now. We're going to give you a chance to do it, and this is what we want you to do. We're going to give you 1 year. The board can give them up to 10 years if they wanted to. So I don't understand why all this is thrown back on us, because this ain't going to be a quick fix tonight. So that's just my comment on this.
Commissioner Owens, let me let me go back, if I may, to address some of those, right? So, I'm not sure, because I didn't go back to look at the minutes, that we really addressed the requirement or potentially placed in a requirement in our stipulations of security on site. Right? So there's some really good recommendations to consider here from the Board of County Commissioners. And because these are really good considerations, that had we had not a snowstorm that night and everything, we probably would have been able to cover these. I know we went long in detail. I know we went into a 1-year SUP with all these things, but I think it's worth opening and listening and covering these areas too to make it right. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of people concerned about this, as well as the actual owner who puts on the farms. I mean, but it's both the people and the gentleman with RJ Farms to be able to hear what we have. If we're concerned about his.
County commissioners could have just approved this and made their decision, overriding our recommendation.
Yes, you're right.
This thing.
Yes.
And now we're doing it multiple times. How many more times do they get? Man, can we open up every case 2 or 3 or 4 times? What is the one?
If it was just about security, the commissioners could have thrown that right in the deal right then. Hey, on top of your 18 deals that the Planning Commission said, we're going to do this. You must have added security. You must have a veterinarian on site. Boom, bam, case done. We're out of here. But they didn't, so now we're going to go, and I'm all good going back through this, but my mind's not going to change from the last time I voted.
Certainly understand. I think their intent was to ask you these questions, have this board make that determination, as opposed to simply overruling you or adding additional requirements. I think their intent was a positive one. They wanted you to consider what they thought were additional criteria. They're not saying you have to add these as conditions. They just want you to consider. So I think that was their intent. It's not overruling you, but to give you additional information and ask you to consider it in the process.
Do we have a list of the recommendations from the council? Because I didn't see it in my packet.
I don't. The list is not in your packet. I mean, we can reread it again. These are considerations to think about during the public hearing. And I do understand the frustration because you did spend a lot of time on it. And, it was a tough choices and a tough vote. But I would remind that this is the forum for a public hearing. And because the commission didn't think that enough people were able to be present at that public hearing, they did take the action of requesting a new public hearing. And I would ask that you keep your mind open and listen to the evidence that's been presented and in your packet.
Yeah, thanks, Missy.
I have another question, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, and this is procedural again, as to the conditions. And my question is, do we need to have a condition on an SUP that says you must follow the law?
You have conditions in your SUPs that say that you have to follow all local and state regulations and laws.
Okay.
Existing conditions.
So we've already stated that part of it.
You don't have the authority to approve something that violates law.
Right. And that's, I mean, I just wanted to make certain, because I thought we already had it in there that you must follow the law. And so to get a consideration back that we should ask them to follow the law, it seems to me to be redundant, is all I'm saying. And I'm okay. I just wanted to clarify, please. Thank you.
And again, I think that's their intent, is that, yes, this is what they said, they asked you to consider it, you believe it's been addressed with the conditions, you move on to the next item.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would appreciate the conditions that they were recommending BOCC be read again slowly, because I'm old and I've had a hard day.
Yeah, I wrote them down. They're not that bad, but they're really good. They're really good considerations.
Well, if you wrote them down, can you regurgitate?
I'll let
them to
Missy
me?
read them again since it's
Are these
official.
Conditions that we had on the previous.
These are the original conditions. You guys had added the 1 year
SUP.
time limit on it.
Correct.
And then John has the list of considerations from the
Okay.
Okay, well, let's,
Now, before we get into this, also again, if you don't mind, I got hung up the last time on 52 events versus 15 events, and was told that the other events were family or friend oriented, and were not taking in money. And so therefore, we're not being considered as part of this. My question is, if we put in an SUP that says you must follow the law, does that SUP also apply to these family events? Because otherwise, is there not the chance that they can just say, well, this is a family event, wedding, we're not charging attendance, and we're going to do all this stuff that we used to do anyway?
If it doesn't meet the criteria for an SUP, and they're not charging fees, it's unregulated by the SUP. As far as following the law.
But it is still regulated by the law.
It's regulated by the adopted ordinances and laws of the jurisdiction in which you're on. Again, you don't have the authority to approve anything that goes outside those.
Right. Okay.
Remember, there is a specific regulation for private events. Those are not governed per SUP regulations. If it qualifies as a private event, they can hold them without getting an SUP or a TSUP on the site.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right,
Mr. Chairman, I'm still waiting for Missy to reread the conditions.
thank you, because I was about to slap the gavel and open this thing up.
I saw you grab for it.
Yeah, I noticed that, the golden gavel. Okay, Missy, can you please read those recommendations that we consider again, please?
Well, Commissioners, I'm going to let John Khalil do it because he watched the public hearing over and over again and wrote down the conditions, so I don't want to deprive him of his chance to read it again.
And I'll try to talk slower. I know I talk
Okay,
fast.
John. Okay, John.
So the first condition was the certification that there would be security on site, or a consideration of requiring security on site during these events. The second condition was requiring a licensed alcohol vendor to be on site during these events if there is going to be alcohol during the events. The third consideration was
That
all-
was if they're selling alcohol, not if there's alcohol. It's if they're
So if-
selling alcohol, you got to have a license to
But we
sell it.
covered that at the last
Yeah.
meeting.
there was to
That
be
they
no
were-
sale of alcohol at the event.
Right, so if we could just get through those criteria, we'll go through. each.
Okay, go ahead, go on.
I'm just reading what the commissioners said.
Yeah, we haven't got discussion yet.
Third consideration was ensuring that all Kansas laws are observed and followed. There was the fourth consideration was the requirement that all out-of-state license and registration for the animals are followed as required by state law. There's an assurance that that tail pulling and horse tripping did not occur at these events. The next one was reviewing the insurance requirement of whether or not the $1 million of insurance is enough liability insurance to be required. The fourth consideration was potentially requiring an inspection of the bleachers on the site because there was some concerns brought up about the structural integrity of the bleachers on the site for the spectators of the rodeo. And then the last condition was, or the last consideration, was that a licensed veterinarian may be required on the site during the events.
I believe you also talked about raising the insurance requirement potentially.
Yes.
greater than $1 million.
That was number 6.
Thanks.
That was number 6.
Yeah.
And does anybody need any of them repeated?
No, they're really good. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
And thanks for rewatching and capturing them.
Okay.
You're a good man. Okay. All right, Mr. Clemens. Commissioner Clemens, may I begin now?
I don't know, sir. Can you?
All right. Upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak, either for or against this item upon recognition, will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is recorded. Remember, the public hearing portion is limited to 5 minutes. The public hearing comment portion of this hearing is now open. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Joe Herring, Herring Survey, 315 North Fifth. Good evening. In here, so I'm not going to take a lot of time other than to address the stuff that I know that are facts. There are no bleachers on site. I did the site plan and everything. Bleachers don't exist. So, the other thing is, and I talked to staff about this, was I think it was exception number 16 on the list, and it had on there, no, I'm wrong, 15. No amplifiers will be permitted for any live music band. Well, they do anticipate having live music bands, and every band that's allowed in the county and other SGPs have amplifiers if you have a microphone. So we're asking for that to be removed. There is an understanding you have a decibel level not to increase at the property line, yet we have no noise ordinance. But I think that one right there is just a little unfair not to be able to play music loud enough for the whole music. Other than that, if you do have questions about any of the facts that were stated on the site plan, I'm here to explain those facts.
I have a question that seems pretty obvious. Is this, with all these stipulations that have been put on from the county commissioners, is this even feasible for your people to do?
I won't talk a whole lot about that because there are other people involved in this now. But as well as good intention as those may be, sometimes bad things come out of good intention. And I'd be very cautious, in my opinion, of all the SUPs we have seen in our community. Similar conditions put on those SUPs would be very detrimental to put them on this. That's all I can say about that.
I do have a question. Do you wear glasses, Mr. Herring? I mean, do you wear glasses all day long? Because we have a signed, sealed document here in our page that says, I have reviewed the construction of the stage that is located on the property.
Stage,
so the
not the
stage.
bleachers.
So the stage, no bleachers, there's just a stage built.
There is a stage.
And nothing
There's
else.
no one on the site plan.
And nothing
There's
else.
other stuff, but didn't see any bleachers.
Okay, no bleachers. Okay.
And I do wear reading glasses.
Okay, I knew that. Now,
Joe,
yeah.
before you go, I have one comment as to your additional comment about condition number 15 with the amplifiers. If I remember correctly, at the meeting where we discussed this, I specifically pointed out that particular condition and asked if the applicants understood the condition and were willing to abide by it. And I got a thumbs up.
Well, we're adding conditions. We're asking to take one back.
Thank you.
Let me reiterate, the BOCC did not say that these were conditions of approval. The
BOCC asked you to consider these elements. I just want to be clear.
I got that. But we've already approved the 23
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
conditions that were there.
Yes, sir. Again,
Okay, so you're now asking us to reconsider that.
Reconsider that because if they go down there and there's a simple small amplifier thing on the stage, no matter how big it is, that's in violation and you could pull their permit.
I got it, and I specifically pointed that out the last time and was told, hey, we got it. Not going to have amplifiers.
Another public hearing.
Okay, all right, I got it. Thank you.
one other point of contention on that particular requirement. From a staff level, it's really the dB set at the property line is the paramount concern.
Decimals, yeah, the noise.
Yeah. Right.
Noise decimals.
Yeah,
at
the
property line.
cap at the decibel limit at the property line. However you get there.
And I agreed with that, but I also
I understand.
specifically pointed that
Yes,
out
you did.
so that everybody understood what we were talking about. and did not get a thumbs down on that one.
I'm certainly not disagreeing with you, Commissioner.
Okay. We'll work it.
So, is your microphone amplified, sir?
It is.
So we can't have that at the event.
No.
I mean, you see my point? I mean, when we talk amplification, we're on a thin line here. I mean, as far as because at a rodeo, which event they're saying, they are going to say, in chute number 1, we have Joey Bean, and that's going to be an amplified deal. So if we're saying no amplification, then it's going to be real quiet at the rodeo.
Yeah, but we've already said it.
Right, and we already said that.
Our group already said that.
Right. So
Again, the intent behind that particular restriction was to limit that decibel level at the property line.
Correct.
A point understood.
We're relooking at. Hey, can you pull up the stipulations again so we can keep?
Which one?
There you go. Thank you. And every so often, we'll just flip to the second page and back
I'll
to.
do my best.
You know what I'm saying? So we can continue look at this.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question for staff.
Yes, please.
Just before the stipulations, your recommendations classified as a type 3. Can you refresh my memory, what is a type 3?
A type 3 special use permit is a type of use that can occur in neighborhoods but might have some detrimental impacts such as noise or light or something to that effect that makes it a little bit more of an impact in the surrounding community. And what that type then translates to is staff's recommendation for how long the time limit should be on this SUP. If you remember, and I still see it shown here, staff recommended 5 years based off of that type use category, but you guys recommended 1 year, to amend that to 1 year at your last meeting.
So again, our recommendations are based on intensity of use, but you are not bound by that recommendation.
That was going to be my next question. Thank you.
No. Yep. All right. Any other? We're going to have room. We're going to have time for discussion around the table too, and then we'll get to engage with the folks that present tonight. At this time, we'll now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Those wishing to speak in favor of this request. Please come up, sir, and state your name and your address.
My name is Gary Nelson. My office is 2604 South 4th, Leavenworth, Kansas. I'm an attorney, and I represent RJ Farms. I've got a couple of, I've spent quite a bit of time going over emails and different material that I've gotten from the Planning Commission. And I've read Sheriff Stanike's memo, and he mentioned in his memo that all of his concerns were unconfirmed, but, he has some concerns about a couple of things, despite the fact that there's approximately 2 decades activities going on out there with not one criminal complaint being filed against anyone as a result of what was going on in any of the events. And there was also some talk in there about charging them for having a deputy there, and I've never heard of that requirement before, and I don't know what the county charges to have deputies there. When it's a requirement of the county that a deputy be there, I don't know what they charge other people to be at events, but it does. I've never heard of that one. I've also reviewed the emails from Crystal Blackdeer, Executive Director of the Leavenworth County Humane Society. There's just some concern about horse tripping and the tail pulling. There were some pictures. The pictures don't appear to be from their facility. They appear to be just what she says they are, and they're taken from social media. There is no evidence that any of this stuff is going on from the Sheriff's Department or anything else, anywhere else that I could see. It's all unsupported speculation. As far as the security, they've had Alma security, 6 to 8 people for the events on site routinely throughout the years. This Alma security, I looked them up on the internet. They're a pretty big outfit. They provide security to a lot of places, major events in Kansas City, and so they're not some fly-by-night outfit that just is trying to rustle up some bucks and be there. They're a pretty big outfit. The other thing is my client has looked into and is in the process of applying for the Kansas Agritourism Promotions Act registration, which registers them to the state of Kansas as agricultural tourism event and a location for that. As near as I can tell from from reading that act and related material from the tourism, Kansas Agritourism Commission, that the local governments have the right to regulate the potential impact on traffic, noise, and the environment. And well, I think your requirements of special use permit go far beyond that, but that's what it looks to me like. It's not been tested in the courts. It's a pretty new act. I don't know what, I have not been able to find out what regulations you put on other rodeos in the county or other agricultural tourism events such as corn mazes and the wineries and stuff like that. I don't know how you regulate that, but these people have run an operation out here. It's a small-scale operation. We're not bragging about how big it is. It's a very small-scale operation, and but they've run it for a couple of decades without a single criminal complaint arising from it. The sheriff never mentioned traffic accidents or traffic problems, any of that stuff, in his email. So I don't know what reason there would be to turn this thing down other than speculation about what might happen, what could happen. And of course, that could happen in this building while we're here tonight, a lot of that stuff. A lot of it's just speculation. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I do have one question.
Sure.
As you said, this has been going out here for several decades.
Well,
so
sure.
There's been no criminal complaints, but my question is, does your client realize that horse tripping was illegal in the state of Kansas?
Sure.
As he proposed earlier, this is a cultural thing. His culture may be different from my culture.
Sure.
So, and my American rodeo is totally different from a Hispanic rodeo. So, some of their events I'm taking, their heritage is illegal in Kansas due to a couple of events, the tail pulling and the horse tripping,
right,
which I've never seen either one of those. But he is aware that they cannot do that on the premises if they get this SUP.
Yes, and I had an extended talk with Mr. Farrell about the horse tripping because I've never seen it and I didn't understand it. The roping part of a horse tripping is the skill part, where you throw the rope in a certain position, draw it, you get their feet caught, draw it tight, trip them. They do and have done the rope throwing part, but they don't pull the horses down with it. It's just the skill part of it, not what's been considered the animal cruelty part, where you actually trip the horse. Where if you go to a regular rodeo and you see the cowboys do the calf roping, they rope the calf's neck, jerk him down, often flips him over and all. Then they grab him and throw him and tie their feet together and they're done. But in the horse tripping, if I understand it correctly, in Mexico they actually drag the horses, trip them down on the ground like when you rope a calf and jerk them back. It typically knocks them off their feet and puts them down. They don't do that part of it with the horses it here, these rodeos.
Thank you.
And the tail pulling, the pictures that were posted on the internet of that are professional photography, and they were taken from some website, just like the lady said. They do not appear to be from his facility. One of the other pictures showed cars parked on both sides of the road. That was not at one of his events. They have on-site parking. Any other questions?
Please, Mr. Chairman, I would say that there have been 2 confirmed complaints of parking on the road by the sheriff. That was in our packet in the last go around.
Okay.
So.
Were they related to an event at this?
Yes,
location?
they were. I would also ask, since you're his lawyer, why it has taken him over 20 years to get to even apply for a special use permit, considering that we have a letter here in our packet from 2009 where he was advised by the county attorney that he needed a special use permit, and none has been applied for until last year, a temporary use permit, and this year a special use permit. What am I to make of that?
Well, the other thing I could say to that is that we don't know of any other rodeo situations or ag tourism situations in Kansas that have special use permits. They did not find anyone that had one, and didn't really know that there was a need for one, even though they were advised it would be a good idea to apply for one.
But they were told in 2009 to get one, and it's now 2025, and we're arguing about it.
I understand.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Nelson?
Not at this time.
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, so we're still hearing from folks wishing to speak in favor of the request.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Aurelio Barro, and I'm part owner of RJ Farms. I'm not going to spend time like I did last time trying to explain the traditional, because basically at this point that doesn't count. What it is, this basically is like a special favor that everybody's doing for some ex-commissioners, because in 2016, if I remember right, I applied for a special use permit. But one of the ex-commissioners that he's here, he knows who it is, I know who it is. I find out he actually invented that there was a massive shooting on my property, which never existed. It never happened. Okay, the same thing that happens is going on today. That same commissioner, actually ex-commissioner, I'm sorry, last time he was here, he said, I passed by the road, I saw 400 people, I saw them on the bleachers, and I saw 2 portables. From my arena to the road, you're talking about almost 1,200 feet or more. There's trees, there's a barn. How are you going to be good driving on the road and counting all that people just passing by? There's no bleachers. We got a stand for the band, which is what do you call it? That we got the permit for it. A stage. I'm sorry. We got a stage, and we already got confirmed. We got an engineer. Joe knows about it. They know about it. We did everything according to the law. And this is not about us getting a permit. We don't trip horses. That's another thing. This is not about us getting it. It's about doing somebody a special favor and inventing all kinds of stuff. And that's what it is. Basically, it's because they don't like Hispanic people.
They don't like what? I'm sorry.
Hispanic people.
Yeah.
And that's one. And I stated that the first time I came here. That's basically, before I didn't understand what was going on, why, I had my music and cops get there and they show up and say, I don't see nothing wrong. If they would be so dangerous doing our family events, or Mexican charreadas, you don't think in all 20 years there would be a bunch of reports on the police? I mean, one person calls all the time. I can call the sheriff 100 times. I can dial private and call him. But that doesn't mean that, I mean, all the people is calling. Where's all the neighbors? The lady that's complaining about this, she lives on 222nd Street. My entrance is in County Road, Control Road. What did bothers her? I know what it bothers her, that we're Hispanic. I mean, that's the main thing. It's not about a party. It's not about a rodeo. It's about racism. And all this is going on. That's why they keep going back and forth, because they used to be ex-commissioners. So somebody's doing a favor to them. But I mean, whatever I say, it doesn't matter, because I mean, it's not going to take on consideration. Even if I do the right thing, if I hire a lawyer, if I hire anybody, I mean, the planners only gave us 26 counties. We complied to all of them, which 13 of them probably don't even exist. But we did it. Why we did it? Because we're thinking, okay, if we do the right thing, it'll be good. But at this point, how long has been all this going on, back and forth, back and forth? Now, they got they're tripping horses. Did they ever see that? They've been there and look at it? I mean, that's not true. Like my lawyer said, we do the skill thing, but we let it go. Because that was one thing on the whole United States where they approved the charreada, that you cannot trip a horse. And you can search it on the internet and you'll find it out.
What about the tail pulling?
The tail pulling is legal in Kansas City. It might not be legal in some other states, but it's legal in Kansas City. Texas is legal. Matter of fact, in about 2 months, there's going to be a big tournament of tailing where they give a F-350 dually brand new for the first prize. Colorado does the same thing. Wichita does the same thing. I mean, it might not be legal in some states, but according to the research we made, Kansas is legal. I mean, but I don't know. I mean, and I'm sorry if I don't speak right because my English is not that good.
We're hearing you pretty good.
But I mean, I just try to.
Hey, before you go, hang on a minute. You're gonna be here for a while. Before you go anywhere, let me just say this on the record, okay? I can't change the way you feel about racism. Nothing I can do to make that change. Nothing I can do to erase history. Nothing I can do to try to change once you formed that opinion. Your perception was earlier. Now you formed an opinion and you stated it. And there's nothing I can do to change it, right? But I can tell you that there's not a single person on this council or the Board of County Commissioners that I work for are seeking you out based on racism. That is not what this is about. What this is about is for considerations to make sure or to ensure that we consider some of these things. We put 23 of them on there for you. 1 or 2 of them are already on there, right? But that's the way we're doing it. Not at any time had the Board of County Commissioners talked to me that we're seeking you out, we're looking for you about this. Now, those 2 previous ex-commissioners, I don't know if you're talking about the ones that just left or you're talking about the ones that used to be in 2016.
They were back in the past.
Okay, back in the past. Okay. I can't do anything about that either, sir. And I am sorry, and I apologize you feel that way. We wanted to make sure that this doesn't happen based on racism, if you notice that, okay? So on the record, this has nothing to do with racism, okay? From what I'm looking at, there was only 2 recommended things we talk about. That was animal cruelty. The rest of it is pure safety. I mean, everything they asked for us to consider that maybe we want to add another condition was based on safety. Nowhere on here does it say we just don't like them and we don't want this thing to occur. And nowhere on there did it ever say to us, we want you to relook it so you disapprove it. That's not part of it either. So I just want to make sure you understand. Now, please hold tight because we have a lot of good questions for you. Okay? Yeah, I can't do anything about the past, but I can do something about the future.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. And I think I told you last time you were here, I got 2 grandsons. They're big into this stuff, so we're going to come out and visit with you and enjoy the food, enjoy the festivities, and enjoy the rodeo. Okay. All right. That said,
Okay.
Sir, Commissioner.
So my first question is this picture from your property? Was that taken at your rodeo event there? No. Was this picture of the dead horse taken from your property?
Okay. That picture on the dead horse is my son's coat. If the veterinarian is a vet is here, he should know that horse died of a colic. There on the picture they said even at the bottom, somebody asked my son what happened, and he said colic. Okay, horses die all the time of colic. Don't matter what you do, you can take them to make a surgery, and up in Manhattan there's a good clinic out there. We took some of them. They charge a lot of money, and they don't survive. You are a T-roper. You know what a colic is, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I don't have to explain a whole lot. People that might don't have horses might don't know. It's like founder. If you get a horse eating too much, it gets founder. There's nothing you can do. You can treat him, spend a lot of money, but he's not going to get well. Cancer. I had to put one of my good horses. It was a Frisian with Belgian. Beautiful horse. Beautiful. I took it to the vet there on Tonganox on 158 there on Leavenworth by the I-70. Okay, I took it there. They make samples. It had cancer. I had to pay $150 so they can put it in inject and put him to sleep. So I didn't see him suffer. The vet told me, look, you got 2 options. Either you put it to sleep or take it back to your pasture and let it die of skinny because he's not going to get well. I took my choices because I didn't want it to suffer. And it was a beautiful horse. Beautiful. Look, those are things that, in that quote, yeah, my son, it was my son's. I gave it to him. Beautiful Palomino. And the way they put it in color, white and black, so they don't see the shiny on it. Is he kind of skinny? No. It was well fed, nice build. It just got a colic. You can't do nothing about it.
Thank you,
Don't
sir.
matter what you do. We try so many horses to try to save them, and they don't.
So,
Thank you, sir.
My second comment. So, are you and your attorney comfortable with providing security at your events, hiring a licensed beer vendor, and what's the third one the Board of County Commissioners wanting?
Licensed veterinarian.
And a licensed vet. So you provide a licensed vet at your event. You're on site. You're going to provide security, which whatever security company you choose, and
Plus alcohol.
And the alcohol. If we said no alcohol, but apparently the Board of County Commissioners.
No, we never said no alcohol.
Yes,
we did.
It's actually in his application.
We said he can't sell the alcohol.
That's right. We said
right.
they can't sell alcohol, but
Right.
the county commissioners are apparently under the idea that they're going to sell alcohol, and it must be from a licensed vendor.
Yeah,
Are you good with hiring a licensed vendor to sell your?
Actually, I got a lot of friends. Matter of fact, a guy that owns El Patron there on DeSoto, he actually puts his stand there on the fairgrounds there on DeSoto, and he has to get a 1-day license to sell alcohol and any other thing. So you got to have just 1-day license. That's all it is. And you see, security. We always have security. What are we talking about here? I don't make an event without security. They're always at the door, and they check for any knives, any weapons. They check for any beer bottles because we only allow canned bottles. It's for the safety. We always done. So who came out that we don't have security? I don't understand.
No, I don't have anything that says you don't provide security. I just have. Hey, did we talk about it when you were here last time?
Yes.
That's all we're doing.
Last time I understood that it was like you guys want to put somebody about here to go and check to stay there as a security. That's what I understood last time. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I believe from
He's referencing the BOCC meeting. I think.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, and I think their intent was that some form of security acceptable to the BOCC.
Oh, okay.
Would that, if you were to make that condition, whichever he proposed, and if they accepted it, that meets their condition.
Okay.
I think that was their intent.
So it wasn't specified that it's an off-duty policeman,
No.
they just want security.
No, yeah, that idea came up, but at the end of that discussion, that it's simply security that's acceptable to the BOCC for these types of events, if you're going to have alcohol.
Yeah.
Again, everything's predicated
Right.
on the alcohol component.
Makes
And just
makes common sense for the safety of everybody there.
Right, and
Got
just
it.
to reiterate, you
Got it.
you can only regulate the sale of alcohol if they're going to have a vendor. Outside of that, that's not the purview of this.
Yeah, I
body.
got you. Yep. I
Can I
got
say
you.
one other thing? Now, last time, okay, I even agreed for one of the commissioners or whoever wanted to come out there to the site and check my property. I mean, they went out there. It was, I believe, one from Planning and Zoning, lady commissioner, and the sheriff also was out there. They didn't see anything wrong on it. I mean, they went actually to the side. We had a lot of witnesses that were out there with me. Even one of my neighbors up 2 houses up, he was over there too, talking to them. So I mean, I'm not trying to do anything illegal or trying to do anything wrong. It's just that every time I try to apply for a permit, always gets denied. So this time I said I'm going to go to see what happens, because I mean, always gets denied for any reason. And that's a problem. And like I answered the question he was asking. Well, in 20 years, how come we did apply quite a bit of times? It just always gets turned down.
Well, it hasn't been denied in this group. Okay, so we recommended approval for a 1 year.
If it's been turned down, there have been instances where you have continued to do without a special use permit. Is that correct or not?
No, because one time I had a party on my son, and they sent me to court for a party on my son, which it doesn't affect a public event. It was all family. Even the officer got there and said, "Oh, there's going to be a rodeo here because it was cars." Well, it was my son's birthday party. Big deal. It's my property. I mean,
Correct.
And they
But
sent me
you
to
have
court.
also advertised for your rodeo when you didn't have a special use permit.
I put on my personal Facebook. Is that illegal? That I mean, in my personal Facebook, I can put whatever I want according to my
Yes, you
personal
can,
property.
but you are also charging admittance.
Does it say there that I'm charging them?
It said that children are free by tickets.
Okay, and they got a. How do you say?
Well, I think we already know you weren't in compliance with the SUP. That's why you're here to apply for a SUP.
Exactly.
We went through all that last time. You went 20 years, you were bad boy, now you're trying to be a good boy, and we're trying to do the right thing. That's what this is boiling down to.
With regards to like a vet on staff or testing, I mean, you guys require people come from out of state, you require Coggins or health papers for horses?
According to me, I mean, in Kansas City, you don't need that unless you come in. But we don't have people coming from out of state. Unless if they do, they have to have it.
Right.
I mean, because we did a show up on the American Royal Arena, and they required that, and all of us that went out there, we had it.
Right.
So I mean. And basically, we take care of our animals. I mean, for example, if I want to go to Oklahoma, Texas, I have to have it. If I get pulled over, I mean, I have to have it.
Correct. Yeah. I too, and I travel. So that type of thing, if you're going to host an event and people, I just want to make sure that that part of it is, being taken care of, I guess.
And are there any questions?
I have a couple more. One, as was brought up by one of the Board of County Commissioners, asked why you don't go. If you've got this many people, why don't you go to the county fairground and rent a county fairground?
That's another question that I'm going to answer you. Okay. I am planning of trying to talk to some of the promoters to do like a big event there to see if we can get it. But what I do is not a big event. It's a little bit. You can have from 20 people up to 300, 400, 100. You never know. Sometimes you put up an event. You rent the portables. You rent security. I mean, you spend a lot of money, and if you only get 20 people, what happens? You put off your pocket. A lot of people see this. I heard. Saying, okay, why don't you rent a county fair? It's $2,500. Well, if you get, let's say, if you get 1,000 people, $40, that's $40,000. Yeah, but who guarantees that you're going to have 1,000 people? I mean, it's always a risk there.
I understand
and
that,
it's a
but
big-
you
it's a-
also are scheduling 15 of these a year that you're charging for, that you're asking us to approve. Is that correct?
Say that again, sir.
You're asking for us to approve up to 15 of your rodeos per year, correct?
No, it's not only rodeos. It's not only rodeos. I mean, we put 15 events. I can have 2 rodeos, maybe none. Because the leasing cattle right now is so expensive, we might not even have none. But, it's not the 15 events is not just for rodeo. That's why we keep going back and forth. Oh, rodeos. Why do we focus only on rodeos?
Because that's what the special use permit is for.
Can I clarify that?
Yeah,
In his
please.
narrative, he also indicated that they wanted the ability to hold weddings and birthdays like
Right,
an
and
event.
You said that those were private
No,
events,
no.
and
If they
were not
are-
part of the 15.
Okay, can I answer this question? Okay, so private events are events that are held on a private property that are not being charged, so there's no fee exchanging hands to operate the event there. There is no fee at the door to enter into. Like an event center, somebody can rent out a space, right, to hold a wedding there, and he is asking for that ability up to 15 events a year that could include rodeos, birthday parties, weddings, where they charge a fee to use the property. So he is absolutely correct. He could not have any rodeo events per this SUP and only have weddings and birthday parties and other similar celebrations where they are renting the space for.
Okay, well, that wasn't very clear the last time, because when we were talking about this the last time, we had talked, the initial paper, the
Yes, they
initial
originally-
narrative had said 52 events a year.
They originally requested 52. After we further discussed with him what their intent was on those 52 events, they said, oh, we understand some of those in that number included private events. We will take that off because we cannot regulate those, and we will not regulate those per our regulations. But they can have somebody pay a fee to come out and hold a wedding or a birthday party or a graduation party or a family reunion on this site per this SUP request.
Now, are those events that you just described, are those considered private events?
No, they would not be considered private events because that person is leasing the space to hold an event on his site.
So a private event would be like a birthday party for somebody that's blood relative.
For example, he mentioned his son's birthday. That is a private event. He's not charging somebody to come out there for his son's birthday. He's holding his son's birthday on the site.
So maybe this will help. There seems to be a little confusion between a TSUP and an SUP. The TSUP serves as an event permit specifically for an event. In this case, it would be a rodeo. An SUP grants a certain element of rights to have a certain type, not just event, but use on that particular property for a defined number of times a year. So that's the difference in the two. It's not just a repetitive event. A TSUP is an event permit. An SUP is a granting of specific rights for a type of use.
Which was rodeos.
Partly, which is
Fairgrounds.
right. Anything that's included in the previously described, that's why it's labeled that way for this SUP. But yes, his primary use is going to be rodeos. Not every event may be a rodeo. It may be leased out for a birthday party or some type of event. Consider it an exterior event center, for lack of a better term.
My next question is, I'm not certain, because we're asking other types of SUPs to go to business parks and such, I don't think it's a bad question to ask whether or not you should consider going to the fairgrounds. My next question would be, if you're holding a rodeo or a
Charreria.
if you're holding one of those on your site, is there a reason that would it be reasonable to require a licensed vet on site? I mean, that's what a PRA rodeo requires, is a licensed vet on site, so that if an animal is hurt, and whether it has to be euthanized or not, the amount of hurt is minimized, the amount of pain and suffering is minimized, the amount of, if an animal is hurt. So if an animal is hurt when you're holding your, and I'm sorry, I simply can't pronounce it.
Yeah,
So,
I understand.
but while you're holding your rodeo, should we not require a licensed vet on site?
You require that for all the arenas, so it's just for the RJ Farms?
Well, if there's an,
I mean,
if there's
even if
there's a
county-
PRA, if there's a professional rodeo association event that's sanctioned at the county fairgrounds, it must have a licensed vet on site. So my question is, and I haven't, to my best of my knowledge, we've never asked anybody else because we've never had another rodeo. All the rodeos are at the fairground. So if we're saying host it at your place, you're charging admittance. If we say host it at your place, is this not reasonable to say we need a licensed vet on site to minimize why? I understand small, but if you have a small rodeo that's PRA sanctioned, it has a vet on site.
Hang on a minute. We got one guy at the mic.
I say no. Because, I mean, I know there's a lot of other arenas, and you don't require that. And in Leavenworth, and there's
not me.
Leavenworth. And
I'd require the same thing.
I mean, there's a lot of other arenas where you guys don't require that. So why do you require me just for me? I mean,
Name another arena.
There's another arena that don't even have permits, and they do team roping, they do parties there, and they're really close to here. I mean, it's just that I can't be pointing.
And do
fingers at names.
do they charge attendance?
Yes,
you were talking about.
Yes, they do charge attendance.
No, I'm talking of one really close to here, not without getting out.
Not out by you.
No, not
Okay.
that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Commissioner, if I
The one
could-
out by you,
could
I
I-
inquired
okay.
about that, and they do have a
Can I
special
hop
use
in
permit.
Whenever.
So, what
So-
they're doing out there, the team roping,
No, I don't know
that's
about- I don't
that's
know
all
about that
covered.
because-
They're good.
I don't know about them, but I'm talking about here in Leavenworth.
John,
So,
please.
from a regulatory standpoint, this is the reason the staff puts in comply with state and local requirements. So we're neither vets nor are we in a spot to regulate to this level any condition that may or may not arise that may be in excess of state
Well,
statute.
the only reason I brought it up, John, is
I
because
understand.
the county commissioners brought it up. So
Understood.
I'm asking the questions that the county commission has asked me to ask.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I'm just simply stating from a staff
I
standpoint.
got it. I understand. Okay, I'm done.
Any other questions?
All right, hang on a minute. Any other questions from this side, from the applicant, from the commissioners? Any other questions from this side?
Not at this time.
Thanks, sir. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
for your patience.
I hope you understand where I come from on that racism piece. All right, thanks. Okay, we're still listening to those who wish to speak in favor of the request. Come on up, state your name and your address, sir.
Billy McGee, 213 Bone Street, Linwood. Just wanted to comment on a few of the things, like I've been out there to almost every one of his events. I've known him since about 2012 when I moved down here. Like they were saying, they brought the bleachers and stuff, and I know he said that he didn't have it once they went out and checked it, said that they're also not there. I can also vouch that they've never been there, so it's not like somebody complained about them and then they got taken down. There was no bleachers from the get-go. You know, the speaker there with the noise, I've had a couple parties out at my place. It's just always like they're saying like the noise decibels, so I don't see why that speaker or amplified music was in there. That makes sense to me, but I mean, because of what they agree on, I guess. It just said fireworks could be after midnight, and then other than that, they said it didn't matter how loud our band was, you know, it could be as loud as it wanted, but it was about the fireworks. The security, I'm one of the guys that tells me was out there all the time. We stop a vehicle, comes in, checks, like he said, we make them get out completely out of the vehicles, look at the whole vehicle, make sure there's no guns, knives, no whiskey, no glass bottles of any kind, none of that's in there. You know, we've done that every single time, right when they go in the gate. They have no options to go anywhere else. There's never been any fights out there. No, I mean, it's just like any party you have in your house, I'd say it's just a little bit bigger. Sometimes, you know, sometimes it's not. You guys are asking so about him renting like the Leavenworth County Fairgrounds. So if he was saying I think it's like $2,500 to rent it. My question is, if he rents it though for $2,500, what about the food vendors and the people selling, you know, drinks or whatever, tack and stuff like that for horses? Don't they have to pay for each one of those people that want to be in there too? You know, like they have to pay for their own spot too. They have to pay for that also. You know, I don't know. Like so, we had a bunch of them and never had any problems. So I just didn't know the horses that you guys were asking about, like the horse tripping and stuff. He commented on it. I could also say that he's got quite a few of his horses out there. I've known his son and my son went to school together, and his boy real good at training them. The horses are like, they look nicer than I do right now, I can tell you that. You know, they're guaranteed to probably smell better, their hair look better. They just love all over you. You know, I was out there last night, just jacking around, and one of the horses just sat there laying its head on me. You know, and they're all like that. So they're not going to hurt any horses or anything intentionally for sure. You know, if one does get hurt, they're going to tend to run away. I can guarantee that. It's just the way they are. So, I don't know if you guys got any questions for me, but
Your name again, sir, is?
Billy McGee.
Billy McGee. All right. Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank
Any
you.
questions for Mr. McGee? I appreciate you coming up and speaking, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Those wishing to speak in favor of the request? Ma'am, just grab that mic and pull it down. There you go. There.
Hello, my name is Norma Brockenberry, and I live in 17564 West 158 Olathe, Kansas. And I am here as a co-owner. I feel like you guys say that there's no racism. I say that I'm not sure about that. I think it's more like favoritism. So that's what I want to think it is. I work in a hospital and I see every type of person, and we all bleed the same. So I want to think that this is just you guys having some favoritism for some people, because this is the 7th time, something like that we are here, and there's no reason for it. Either you say yes or you say no. I don't understand why we're going back and forth. You know, like we have 26 things that we need to do when we have done everything that you guys have asked, and now we're back.
I want to make sure your mic's
Hello? Okay. And now we're back to start over.
We heard you. We got you. We heard you good, but now we really hear you.
Problems too, sorry. So now we're back. So it's kind of frustrating to just come back, all the way when we've done all these things. We have already said, you guys already put 20-something things that compliance that we have to go through, and we already have. So now we have to come back and we have to redo all this thing again. And not only that, this is the first time that I've heard, this is the first time that this has happened where we have to come back to you guys. So I just don't understand, why are we coming back? And then they say, well, it's because some people didn't have the time, or were not able to be here because of the weather. The weather is perfect, and it's the same people that has been coming all the time. There's not one new person that is here that didn't come the very first time. The second or third time, one of the vets came, and she's here again. So it's the same people. It's friends of those people. They're talking about, us not treating our animals right, or us, being inhumane. We are humane. We love our animals. We have our kids out there. We love to be out there, and being with all the animals, just like everybody else. We're not trying to hurt this animal. I mean, not only that it will be bad for us, it will be like monetarily really expensive if we were to hurt our animals. Like, when there's a rodeo, those cows are not free, or those calves, whatever you call it, are not free. You have to pay for them, so you have to protect them and take care of them because they are very expensive. So putting a rodeo is already expensive. Then you add on top of that an injured animal. That's the last thing we want. We just want everybody to have a good time, to enjoy, and of course take care of our animals. Like I say, I work in a hospital field, and that's what I do. I take care of my patients. I want everybody to be safe. I want everybody to be okay. That's what I do. And not only with people, but with animals. I love animals. We all love animals. So for like Humane Society to come here and say that we are treating these animals wrong, or we're tripping, we don't trip. We understand where we are at. We have Mexican backgrounds, but we know we're in the United States. So we go by what is supposed to do. We don't trip those animals. We know that that's inhumane. And I mean, I've seen it when I've been to Mexico, because I've been to Mexico. I've seen what they do, and that's not something that I like to see, because I know that it hurts them. That is not something that we want to do. And like I say, all these people they're coming here and saying, she say, he say, but nobody's really been there to really see. They just imagine because they see like videos from Mexico of what people do, because, our backgrounds is from down there. So they think that that's what we do. That is not what we do. It's like, okay, give me the evidence. You talk the big talk, but there is no evidence. Obviously, we've been doing this, for whatever time. And we've never had any problems to say that, that we are hurting an animal or that we are injuring someone. Absolutely not. We love our animals and want to take care of our animals. So I just don't understand, why is this dragging so much? I mean, obviously, I don't want to think it's because of racism, because, like I say, I mean, by this point in time, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be like that. Favoritism, probably, because we have a couple of people that have been working in this area for a while. But still, like, I feel like if you guys have been told something,
right,
have them
ma'am.
show you something.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Don't leave.
I understand your frustrations and a lot of that. I think some of it is because it's an intense situation for you, but hopefully it'll put your mind at ease a little. This is not the first time they've kicked something back to us, and it's not the first time that we put additional stipulations on certain SUPs. So in that regard, don't feel like it's isolated just to you.
Well, I feel like it's been like it's like now like 29 or 30 stipulations. I mean, I want somebody to show me, where have you guys put that many stipulations on something?
Hang on a second.
Okay.
We haven't added anything.
No, I know
They're
you guys
just
haven't.
considerations. We haven't added anything.
Okay.
So we're still at 23.
Another thing I would say is where it is unique is, at least in the years I've been on the Planning and Zoning Commission, this is the first time a rodeo or the prospect of a rodeo involved.
Maybe that's what it is.
And so I think there are certain questions that would apply that might not apply to somebody with.
And I want you guys to have in mind, this is not just a rodeo. Everybody keeps saying rodeo, rodeo, rodeo. Rodeo might be one of the events, maybe. This is not something that is just going to be rodeos. We might have one event, or maybe two, or maybe even none. It just depends. The cattle is really expensive right now, so we might not even have any.
But that's where all the questions come from, because we haven't had any other cases with that. We've had other wedding venues. We've had other concert things. And so we're well versed in those conversations, but when it's isolated in terms of that, that's why we're concentrating on that. And I just want to kind of hopefully put your mind at ease of why the line of questioning is that.
Thank you.
So you're breaking ice. Does that make sense?
Do you
Right?
mean?
Right?
You're the first.
So you're the first. You're
Okay.
breaking ice, right?
Okay.
So
Maybe
now
that
that
makes it
now
hard.
that right, and now that you're in public forum, and this is public and it's being recorded, so you'll get to go back and listen to yourself. And by the way, you did a very good job tonight.
Thank you.
all right?
Sorry, my
very
voice
very
is-
good presenting. Okay.
Thank you.
But the point to Commissioner Bailey is spot on. This is probably one of the first ones we've done, and it is pretty. Why? Obviously, safety. Just like I explained to the other gentleman. A lot of the conditions that they asked us to make sure we just relook and make sure we cover are safety related. Whether it's the animal safety or you all and all your attendants is safety. That's all it is. That's all it is, right?
No, and that's what we want. We love
But
we love our animals.
I am sorry you feel that way. I can't, like I explained earlier, I can't do anything about the way the perception is. And I say this all the time. Once people form a perception and they cross that line to an opinion, it's over.
Well, I
I
don't
can
wanna
never
think
change
like
your
that.
mind of an opinion.
I don't wanna
but
think
there's
like that.
no, we're not seeking you out as an
And I
entity,
really don't want to
okay?
think like that because, like I say, I work with all types of cultures, and I welcome everybody and I help everybody just the same.
Thank you. I got another question over here.
One, first off, we approved this. Everybody sitting up on here, this board, we were here for an hour and 40 minutes coming up with these stipulations. We voted and we approved this. It's the Board of County Commissioners that disapproved it with wanting more stipulations. And I'll go back to my same question. If we got to add 3 stipulations, if you have to have a veterinarian, is that a super big deal? I don't know what that's going to cost for a rodeo
Exactly.
event. You're not going to need a vet if you have a party, a wedding, whatever. But if you do have a rodeo, you must have a vet. Stipulation 1. And the other 2, security. Are you going to have security?
We've
You already
always had
said yes.
security.
So there's 3 more stipulations. If it takes those 3 to get this passed, are you and your partner comfortable
I
with
don't
that?
know. I don't agree with the vet. Not because I don't want a vet, but the vets are very expensive. And when you're talking about just having maybe like 100 people, you have to pay for the cattle, you have to pay for the music, you have to pay for food, you have to pay for all this, and now you're going to have to, and the security, all that is very expensive, and now you're going to add a vet when we are making sure that our animals are safe. If they're not, then we could call our vet, like our own vet. We have a phone number of our vet that he could come. They love animals, and so if we need them, we could call them and be like, hey, I'm going to have a rodeo, or I'm going to have an event where there's going to be animals. If in case something, could I call you? He'll be like, perfectly, yes, just give me a call. And he could come, but if I have to, or if we have to have him be there the whole time, he's going to charge an arm and a leg. And I mean, we're not rich. We're just, trying to like keep this going as just for the family, for the culture, because we just love, that type of events. But it's not because we're trying to spend an arm and a leg on that. It's very expensive. I don't know if you guys know, but it's very expensive to have this type of events. We do it because of the love of it. We love that. I grew up with it, so I love it.
So would it be fair to say that you would agree with having a vet on call when
We
you're
could
having
have a vet on
rodeo?
call, sure.
I'm just saying you wouldn't have any problem with that.
I'm trying to make a compromise here. Where
Well,
everybody's
we
happy.
already have. Well, that's the thing. We already have.
We could look for comparables. When the county fair is held, when there's a rodeo there, does the county have anything to do with requiring any sort of vet, or they leave that up to whoever's sanctioning that?
I would have to defer to whoever puts that event on.
Well, I can answer this, Jaden. At our public auction barn in Linwood, when Mr. Phillips sells an animal, he must have a licensed vet on site for the entirety of that auction.
So not perfectly comparable.
But it's
I'm
not
looking for
comparable, but-
comparables to make sure that we aren't doing anything to single somebody out.
Yeah.
That we're being
Correct.
consistent in what we
Yeah, because that's exactly how I feel.
You have the vet there the whole time, or just for coming out of state?
It's just an out of state. That's what he told me.
No,
Philip.
there's a vet there the whole time. There is a vet there. If you bid on an animal, there is a vet there that.
I don't want to open a can of worms.
I think the transfer of that animal out of state is the reason for that vet being there.
That's correct.
However, this is why staff defer to state and local law. So as that law changes, when you leave that as a criteria, if it changes, you don't have to come back and change the item on your SUP. It evolves with that statute.
I think that's fair, and if the state of Kansas says if you're holding a for-profit event that includes animals, well, then I'm going to leave it up to them whether or not you have to have something there.
And again, the enforcing entity would be the state in that particular situation, which again is why staff forms those.
So we don't have to specify it's what you're saying, as long as we say you follow Kansas.
From a staff standpoint, there doesn't appear to be a benefit to restate statutory requirements, or exclude something that may or may not be in there. So the simplest way to address that is comply with current state regulation, which they would have to do anyway.
The only other thing I would ask, just because it's been brought up and talked about, and I wasn't here in January, so some of this is new. With regards to the horse tripping, we don't do horse tripping.
We do not do horse tripping.
But do we do any sort of roping as like a breakaway roping, or?
No. What they do is they just act, like even a child. Like we even send a video where it shows. I think we sent it a little bit late. There's a child where he's just doing it and then he lets it go. There's no way that we would put a child in any type of danger. Like he just lets it go. This is just to show that he's able to, like grab onto it, but then just let it go. There's no horse tripping. I don't know how many times we have to say, and no. But because there's no horse tripping. There's nothing that will hurt a horse. We love our horses, and they're part of our family.
The tail pulling.
That's part of the rodeo.
So then, in our packet, there was mention of Kansas statute saying that was illegal. Now, I'm not a lawyer, and I haven't read.
That is not illegal. In Kansas, it's not illegal.
Just because I want to make sure that everything's above board.
Commissioner, if I may, I have the Kansas cruelty to animal statute in front of me right now, and I'm going to read the part that applies to the horses to the board, just so that we're all on the same page. So this is KSA 2164 or 21-6412, subsection A. Says that cruelty to animals is, and then subsection 4 of subsection A says, intentionally using a wire, pole, stick, rope, or any other object to cause an equine to lose its balance or fall for the purposes of sport or entertainment. So that is horse tripping. And then the other potentially relevant provision of subsection A is subsection A1 says that animal cruelty is knowingly and maliciously killing, injuring, maiming, or torturing, burning, or mutilating any animal. So those are your two relevant provisions to the statute. Now, there's also exceptions to this statute, and one in particular that I want to point out, which is that this statute does not apply to rodeo practices accepted by the Rodeo Cowboys Association. So
again, all of those items would be addressed under compliance with state statute without getting into each and every possible scenario.
Yeah, I brought all that up because if something is on law, then obviously you have to follow it. If not, it is of subjective nature, and whether or not I or anybody else agrees or disagrees is only a matter of opinion. It doesn't really apply. So that's just the reason I brought it up.
And should state law be violated and followed up and something prosecuted, then that would be grounds for the rescission of an SUP. So just to reiterate,
I think the advantage of discussing it in here is so we're comfortable that the owners understand our view and our interpretation of the law.
Understood.
And that's it.
And once again, this is why I was adamant about a 1-year SUP. Our Board of County Commissioners fly rampantly with 5 years, 10 years, unlimited. 1 year is what we said, and 1 year is what we want. So if the Board of County Commissioners can get on board and get this for 1 year, I don't think we're going to have a problem here.
All right, Commissioner Owens. Do we have any other questions? Those are very good. Thanks, Commissioner Bailey. Appreciate it. Those are good. Good points. Good conversation, right?
Yes.
Good conversation.
Good conversation.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, thank
Do
you.
we have any other? All right. Thank you. Okay. Wishing to speak in favor of the request. Do we have any more wishing to speak in favor of the request? Okay. Can we take a 5-minute break for a restroom break at this point? Is it okay?
Everyone but you.
Okay. Okay.
All
right.
Reconvene at specific time.
Yeah. All right. On my clock, it says 7:10. We'll reconvene at 7:15. Is that all right? All right. Thank you. We'll begin with those in opposition.
You'll hear my opposition after I get back from the bathroom. Watch out. You'll hear my opposition after I get back from the bathroom.
What you gonna say?
How are you today? Movie Doug. How are you doing? Unrelated to this.
Oh, you can eat buffet.
No, here's what I can say one specific. Oh, well. I'll tell
Look at me, I did this for Now, I spent I was at 3 days last week.
You're good with me.
4 days before that. It's amazing we get. It's amazing we get anything out of committee. You can get it to
It's what I want. I want
Oh, that's great. Yeah, much less strenuous. All right, Mr. Baker, how are you? Saw your lovely bride today. Sorry, saw your lovely bride today.
Every time I go to lunch, I'm going to eat.
He's trying to work you up, puppy.
So,
chili.
Friday night, you were wise.
Say what?
You were wise. I debated bringing my jacket.
Yeah, I was thinking about a jacket, and I said, yeah, just take a sweater. And this is a nice warm sweater. I mean, it's quilted.
I'm envious.
Yeah.
Kick myself without bringing it in from the car.
I've got a dog I need to
For some reason,
Oh, did you? Yeah, he's beautiful. His paws are just big.
it's one of those things that
He's big boy.
Mars. Yeah, she sent me the medal. I'm like,
Oh, she sent me the extra.
oh my,
some nights I'll be
oh my. Okay, we got 1 minute. 1 minute, we reconvene.
We just came home from Arizona last week.
You all right?
We spent all last week in Arizona.
Cold.
And it was colder than it was here.
Somehow I'm still sweating.
Except for the
No, I was much
blizzard that you had. But
Oh,
the interesting part is
above the fray.
we went to golf and we got rained
Where's
out
Jade?
in Crazy. No, we didn't. The challenge is the games.
No, it's IT. You do that or I haven't decided which. I'd rather
So
not know.
we play golf in the morning, 9 to 2. The only games that we could have seen were in the afternoons, early afternoons. So we kind of wanted to. We kind of wanted to go.
I was riveted. I was watching that last meeting. I was riveted. I wrote notes. I took notes from
Golf.
You talked before me.
Yeah. It's a temporary.
Make sure
All right, we're missing a couple. We're missing a.
Yeah, I got.
What they're going to do.
I got 7:15 and 30 seconds, and I'm still missing 2.
I'll get him. You stay up there.
Marcus, we'll get him. We'll get him.
Get 'em?
Yep.
Can I get started?
Yes, sir.
Which is what
Do we have a quorum? Does that all it takes? 3, 4, 5. With Marcus, you do.
All right, let's reconvene. Let's get started. It's after 7:15. Appreciate everybody's patience for us to take a little break. We got everybody back? All right.
Alan's coming.
We're missing one.
He's on
Alan.
his way.
All right. Okay, so we ended with there was no more left wishing to speak in favor of the request. And we will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. Please come to the mic, state your name, your address, and you're limited to 5 minutes, please.
My name is Dr. Joan Mernan. I'm a large animal veterinarian, an active member. I live at 26393 235th Street in Leavenworth. It's actually McLeod. It's actually in Leavenworth County. I'm an active member of the American Veterinary Medical Associations, the American Association of Equine Practitioners, the American Quarter Horse Association, and a USDA accredited veterinarian practitioner, former member of the American Association of Bovine Practitioners. I was the on-site veterinarian for the Southeastern Rodeo Association for 7 years.
Wait, can you say that again?
I was the on-site veterinarian for the Southeastern Rodeo Association for 7 years. I am here today to address horse tripping and bull tailing in Mexican rodeos. Horse tripping is illegal in Kansas and 17 other states, and is governed by the Animal Cruelty Act statute, which I have here, which requires that all animal events comply with the rodeo practices accepted by the PRCA. So we can put that to rest. Mexican rodeos do not fit that bill. Horse tripping and bull tailing are illegal in part or whole in 17 other states. Charges for violating state laws range from misdemeanors to felonies. Penalty fines for the first misdemeanor conviction range from $500 to $5,000 and up to $20,000 in imprisonment for a second offense or an animal abuse felony cruelty conviction. So why is there any discussion of a special use permit that knowingly allows illegal activity? I'm using this opportunity. I believe that we're here today because of ignorance of the law rather than criminal intent. I want to have the opportunity to present the background to the zoning and board committee of how horse tripping and bull tailing at RJ events has managed to fly under the radar for 20 years. A typical Mexican rodeo consists of 10 events, 9 for men, 1 for women. 5 of the 10 events are suspect and under review by every animal cruelty board. 3 of the horse events include the practice of horse tripping outright or in one form or another. Interfering with the travel of a horse by throwing a rope around the front feet or the back feet is considered part of horse tripping and is specifically forbidden. And 17 other states, including Kansas, condemn this practice, is condemned by the Professional Veterinary Association, the American Association of Bovine Practitioners, the AQHA, the APHA, and the USDA, APHIS, Animal Plant Inspection Services. and numerous other welfare groups, including the ASPCA, the American Humane Society, PETA, SHARC, and other local, state, and federal agencies, prohibit this. The two cattle events, bull tailing and the three-man bull pull downs, are considered examples of extreme animal cruelty by the cattle industry standards in direct opposition to Kansas state law, which cites the Professional Rodeo Cowboy Association as a gold standard for rodeo livestock care and management. The government relations director from the PRCA, which I personally contacted last week, does not include Mexican rodeo events within the PRCA sanctioned events because they do not comply or are comparable with PRCA sanctioned events. Animal abuse is defined and banned by the Animal Welfare Act and the Horse Protection Act of 1970. The USDA and APHIS is governed with regulating this. On January 31st of 2025, these animal care standards were updated. As of now, any horse owner, any trainer, or person having custody of or responsibility for any horse in a show, exhibition, horse sale, horse competition, rodeo, auction, shall allow or arrange for an APHIS representative or horse protection inspector to inspect any horse or facility, including transportation vehicles, to ensure animal welfare, compliance, determine health status, and the safety and adequacy of housing, management practices, use of training devices, and the ability to identify and trace animals from point of origin to an event. Coggins is required by the state of Kansas, period. In 2016, Dr. Gerald Huff, addressing the AVMA National Convention, warned veterinarians to be vigilant of Mexican-style rodeos specifically for horse tripping. In 2024, the AVMA has condemned this practice. Jim Reynolds, diplomat of the American College of American
All right, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Don't go anywhere yet. Don't go anywhere yet.
Yeah, don't run off.
We're gonna be asking some questions if that's all right. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
All right. All right. Questions from the commission on the side?
You heard the testimony that they're not actually tripping the horses, you're just throwing the rope. And from your testimony, are you saying just that act alone is considered horse tripping?
It throws a horse off balance. Clearly states in Kansas statute you cannot do that.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Anything that could potentially throw a horse off balance?
By its feet.
So an obstacle course at a trail riding facility?
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking with interfering with the travel of the horse with ropes.
Interference.
So, Commissioner, if I would, I can read you the statute again if you'd like. Okay.
No.
Okay. And if you want to argue about the specifics of it, PRCA, obviously ropes, etc., but they have standards that the state of Kansas feels are adequate. And Mexican rodeos do not meet PRCA standards.
I won't speak for everybody else. I'm not arguing into that, to be honest with you. I just don't know that I'm the governing body to work in a hypothetical situation.
Okay.
So
The USDA, APHIS, is the governing body.
Correct.
Okay. And USDA requires, I can certainly tell you what the USDA, let me give you an example.
Here's what I'm saying, is that unless we have evidence of this, even if we did, we're not the ones that evidence would come to those authorities.
All right. Well.
But so then, hypothetically, we are saying, should we approve or deny something because something might occur?
There's plenty of evidence for this.
I would like to see the evidence.
All right. I myself personally submitted photographs taken by the J.R. Ranch professional photographer at his ranch that show interference with a horse's travel and show tailing of a...
And we have those.
And you have those. Oh, I'm sorry. They were submitted to the county commissioner. Not only that, but the J.R. website clearly has demonstrated bull tailing, flipping that cow over and dragging it. The evidence is out there. Since 2009 through 2024, there have been numerous complaints. So I understand today it has to be a criminal complaint. There are numerous complaints. Sheriff Dedeke himself, I understand, submitted a letter to the Board of County Commissioners asking that this event and special use permit not be issued.
Is this one of the photos that you're referring to?
No, that's not the photo I'm referring to. That's an example of horse tripping.
Okay.
There are there's someone who will prevent, who has submitted to you a packet of glossy pictures.
Well, here, you might want to look at the picture again, ma'am. That picture right there, that they said this did not occur on their property. That, to me, it looks like that gentleman might have that cow's tail.
That's illegal in numerous states, and it's considered cruel and unusual punishment.
But it's not illegal in Kansas.
What's the photo she
I'm
was
sorry?
talking
But it's not illegal in Kansas? Is that the testimony tonight?
Currently illegal in Kansas.
Okay, all right.
But illegal in Kansas until somebody files a complaint with the USDA and the animal in the state of Kansas. And do you want to be in that situation? You
All
don't
right,
think?
So what we're talking about then is the horse tripping, and I'm looking at all the photos attached, and I don't have any photos from their event.
There should
I have
be
photos. There are
should
examples
be a photo of a horse traveling with a rope around its front
I
forelegs.
got it.
Okay. And that was it.
And that horse tailing may not be illegal now, but there are people submitting legislation to make it illegal.
Okay, but right now it's not illegal. Are we agreeing to that?
Not bull tailing.
Okay.
Unless
We're not the judicial branch. So
you're not the judicial branch,
no.
but it does fall under injuring an animal.
But at any rodeo, an animal can get injured. If you're a vet, I'm sure you saw the Cheyenne Rodeo 2 weeks ago. Jimmy, the bulldogger got down, grabbed the steer by his head, and accidentally broke his neck. Was it the Cowboys' fault? Was it a freak accident? Yes, it was. By no means did they mean to kill that steer. So accidents happen. We get this. But they've already said, I don't see evidence where they're doing this horse tripping out here at this facility.
They cannot interfere with the forward travel of a horse, period.
Correct. But
That picture was taken of the horse traveling was taken at a JR-sponsored event.
At a JR-sponsored event, but not at their facility.
That's the problem with these Mexican rodeos. They are pop-up events. You issued them a permit for an event that they said that took place, but didn't. And then when asked if how the event
No, we did not issue that.
I'm sorry,
Board of
the
County
commissioner.
Commissioners did.
When asked how the event took, were there any problems? They said there were no problems on an event that didn't take place. This is by the American Bovine Practitioners, Kabuki Rodeo. It's theater, not ranching. I would like the opportunity to address the issue of racism. Okay.
We're out of time. We're out of time unless there's a question.
Can somebody
Is there a
ask
question
me about racism?
Is there a question on here for her about racism?
Not even touching that.
Okay, because we can't allow another testimony. We've already done the 5 minutes. Do we have other questions?
I'm afraid that doesn't and shouldn't, it does not matter at all.
It does not. I
Thanks.
absolutely agree. Cesar Chavez
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you.
opposed Mexican rodeos.
Thank you, ma'am. And thanks for being here tonight, ma'am. These questions have a wall. Right? But these have bleachers. But this ain't the same place. Bleachers. Yes, sir, please.
Good evening. Dennis Bixby. I'm a former Leavenworth County Commissioner. And from what I heard tonight, I'm also a liar. And I would like to dispute that, but that's not what I'm here for. I think I can dispel a lot of problems that we've talked about extensively tonight. And I think it's more clarity than anything else. At the meeting, we talked about security, okay? But it wasn't the security that you think of, such as armed police officers breaking up fights or anything like that. What it was compliance. So I look up there, and I think you'll agree, in the back row, there's a lot of conditions up there. And if the county's going to issue this permit with all these conditions and maybe a few more, they need to have a compliance officer that makes sure that they're following the rules. And we don't have one. Now, the other thing that I recommended was the higher personal liability or professional liability insurance. Okay, you guys had it down for $1 million. $1 million used to be a lot of money. But I can tell you, if somebody falls off a stage and breaks a hip, $500,000 can be out in 24 hours. So my thing was, okay, let's do $1 million, but let's do a $10 million overall policy, which doesn't cost a whole lot more, but it limits each individual to $1 million or the whole event occurrence of a stage collapsing to $10 million. Okay, so again, it goes back to clarity. I don't want to be mean. Okay, I like rodeos. I'd like to maybe attend this one. Okay, I don't know that this is the right event space. Okay, tonight I brought in a couple illustrations for you. I don't know how you want to, if I could ask you to hold these up. Okay, so over here on the right is the Harrow Farm. And up here you see the corral where they actually have the rodeo or the event. Leavenworth County, this is their event. These are the grandstands and all that. Now, I know there's a cost involved. I don't know that it's $2,500. That was a number thrown out. Maybe they've checked on it. I don't know. But when I say inspection to make sure that everything's good, it's not just are the things going to hold up, but there's a little thing out there, and it's federal law, and it's called the Americans with Disability Act. You had to work through that in order to come into this building. We have to have handicap ramps at different locations. We have to make sure that the doors are wide enough, that sort of thing for bathrooms. That's what I'm talking about. It's compliance. It's not so much security. This is no doubt a business, okay? If we have Commissioner Mike Stevens, there he is, went to one of these events, I believe it was last year, and he got charged $40 to get into the gate. And I don't know if he had a good time or not. That's not for me to say, but he was charged $40. So now if we have, let's say, 300 paid admission to these events, and we have 15 such events, then all of a sudden you do the math and we're talking about $180,000. $180,000, that's a business. And just like the sale barn and just like other agribusinesses, they pay taxes, they do things. I like that. I used to sit up there where you folks sit. I like being able to do things and be able to pay for them. And you can only do that through taxes.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Do we have questions from this side of the room? Do we have questions from this side of the room?
No.
Anybody?
Can I finish one thought on taxes?
No, sir. Can't go any further. Appreciate it. Thanks. I can't change it for you and not everybody else. But I appreciate I appreciate that.
I was going to mention, but I won't, about roof and TIF fees.
All right. Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Roof and TIF fees anymore.
All right. We're addressing those present wishing to speak in opposition of request.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Crystal Blackdeer, representing to the Leavenworth County Humane Society, which is at 100 West Gilman Road in Lansing. And I want to apologize if I sent some images that weren't from this location, the applicant location, but they were identified by the photographer who posted them as being from RJ Ranch. So if I propagated an untruth, I apologize for that. 22 years as a military intelligence officer, I pretty much try to look for details like that. So if Laisa, photos by Laisa, misrepresented where she took the photos, I apologize for that. One condition of the permit is that all local, state, and federal rules and regulations will be adhered to, but that will require some verification. I'm not saying that if nobody's there to verify it that bad things will happen, but how do we know if there's no one there to see it or report it? I'd like to revisit the statute. Intentionally using a wire, pole, stick, rope, or any other object to cause an equine to lose its balance or fall for the purpose of sport or entertainment. So roping of the front legs, roping of the back legs, causing the horse to wobble, to lose its balance or fall, those are all illegal. And at previous meetings, it was stated by representatives of RJ Ranch that they did do that. They did horse trip. And it was also stated that they did bull tail. And that can easily be seen on the video from the meetings. Finally, another condition of the proposed permit states that employees or agents of the county will be allowed access to the property to verify that conditions of the permit are being adhered to. Now, this was also a condition of the temporary permit that was approved, but did anyone go out and verify that the event permitted for July of 2024 actually took place and complied with the conditions? And if so, who was that? No one has been able to say. So I've not been to the property. I have no interest in going to the event. I have quite enough on my plate right now. Quite enough. But I'll also remind you that animal abusers very often say that they love their animals. Child abusers will argue with you that they love their child. And spouse abusers will tell you that they love their spouse. That doesn't change the effect on the target of that abuse. They are still suffering, no matter how much the abuser loves them. Subject to your questions.
Oh, thank you.
I will not take any more time.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Do we have questions on this side of the room? Commissioners? Anybody? Okay. Over here. Commissioners for Ms. Blackdeer.
I don't have any questions. I just had kind of a statement I thought about this and other SUPs and other things is that we have those conditions and yes, they need to be followed, but I don't know that any of us are under the impression that the inspector inspects every activity of every business every time something is done. I also don't know that the inspection and compliance falls under our purview in terms of legality of things. That's somebody else's thing. So again, I will say there's a lot of opinions, some of which I might agree with, I might not. It really doesn't matter when it comes down to the legalities. And I would love to be as forceful as I could possibly say to this SUP and others. Follow the law. Don't do things wrong. However, do I think there are probably people out there that aren't doing that? statement or something leads to the right person finding that out.
Well, and that's how Coast Court got a hold of it. So.
So that's just what I have to add.
Yeah, to go along with your comments, as was pointed out, that the discussion about from the Board of County Commissioners was more about how are we, and we've had this discussion on this board a number of times, which is how do we ensure compliance? And your point here is exactly on. You know, I mean, we, the Planning Commission, are not into compliance, ensuring compliance. That is a regulatory function by the Board of County Commissioners. And thus far as I'm aware, compliance kind of has been relegated to complaints from neighbors or from passer complaints from the public at large. So, you know, I mean, that's an issue.
The only other question, not necessarily you guys, the sale barn in Leavenworth County on 32.
Thanks, Ms. Blackdeer.
Does it operate under an SCP?
That's Barn on 32.
It is a commercial property, I think.
Okay, I'm just trying to look for options. Are there any other agribusinesses or animal-based? So I'm thinking of like kennels and things like that. Like I said earlier, like, you know, we ask certain stipulations of different things. So I don't think that is out of order for us to ask for some things, but the baseline is followed.
Well, again, the concentration has been on a rodeo, but it may not be a rodeo, as you said earlier. So that's the reason for a lot of your questions, to clarify. And again, this is the first one since I've been here that's been applied for. Not saying it will be the last.
Well, and to her point, do we follow up on SUPs?
Well, let me speak to that. We reserve that right by this condition to spot check those at our discretion. At the discretion of the BOCC or anyone that works for me. We can at any time check on these SUPs. Doesn't mean that we have staff to man them from the time they start to the time they end each and every event that happens. But by reserving this right, we have the ability to go and check to see if these things are being complied with. Can I tell you exactly when it's going to happen? No. It's as staff time allows. And again, that is up to the BOCC, and when I'm given that direction, I will absolutely make that happen at within the budget constraints we have right now and the staffing constraints we have right now. It becomes a code enforcement issue.
Is that within your office, the code enforcement?
Yes.
And do we currently have a code enforcement officer for Leavenworth County?
We have an individual whose partial duties involve code enforcement, but primarily our code enforcement is reactive. It is complaint driven because we don't have an abundance of staff to go out and enforce these kind of items or do patrols strictly for code enforcement. That's not the intent of that particular position.
We're not isolated in terms of that.
No. No, we are not. And over my 34 years of doing this, and I've issued a lot of CUPs and SUPs over the years, and less than a handful of times have I seen someone there from start to finish. So is it possible? It's possible. Is it normal? No.
Does say this is approved and goes out, does the applicant have to notify you when there's going to be a rodeo?
No. What you're approving here is the ability to have 15 events per calendar year. They don't have to have any.
Well, how do you know? Let's say that they have one next month. How would you know that it's occurring for you to go out to inspect?
I wouldn't. Unless someone calls in.
Cars on the road. That's how we're going to know.
Right. So traditionally what we do is we will send these out, or attempt to send these out to enforcement so they know that there's an event happening here or there. We traditionally do that. So if you have a patrolman that's out, a sheriff's deputy that's out, they see it, they call it in, they realize there's an event based on the SUP or the TSUP.
So if nobody calls, if there's no complaints,
no, then I won't know
about it.
Then I won't know.
Not only this couple others that I won't mention. Would we have the ability to put in some stipulation to ask or mandate that there's at least one inspection a year at an event?
That would fall under the BOCC and the budgeting constraints and staffing constraints of the department.
I really want to make sure I wasn't asking a question that would be unjust or unfair, because I'm not only thinking this one, I'm thinking some other things.
Sure,
Can we make that recommendation to the BOCC?
You can always make that recommendation, but again, I think giving the staff constraints, reserving the right to do so based on a number of criteria probably is the most practical way to address that, which is why you see it as a suggested condition.
I would like to just add, even though you haven't particularly asked about this, one of the directives when I was hired was to ensure that Codes Court was back up and running. We did that. We do have a regular Codes Court docket. John and I prosecute the cases. So we do, when there are complaints, and if there's a sufficient amount of evidence that would be able to proceed with the case, we do go to Codes Court, and the goal is compliance. And we've talked about this before. That is why we are here today on this matter. This was a codes case at one point. The goal was to get in compliance so that events are held the right way with an SUP and that all of the specifications are followed.
But keying off Mr. Bailey's question, if we were able to say at least one of these events a year will be inspected, not only is it for the people holding the event, but it would give some confidence to the community that it is in compliance. In other words, it's not always against the person doing the event, because there's been so much, I would say, both for and against, So, we got to think of it both ways. It's not just for them to comply with the laws, but it's also to assure everybody else that they are complying with it.
Commissioner, if I could interject here, I think versus making that a stipulation or a suggested stipulation or an SUP, that may more be a departmental policy once we confer with the county administrator and the BOCC. So versus mandating that you have a singular inspection per SUP, which I'm assuming would be your recommendation moving forward, or changing, making a text amendment.
When there's animals concerned with...
if you did it, it would need to be for every issued SUP.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think probably it may be a better option to have a departmental policy that, again, based on budget and based on staffing, to accommodate that. By reserving the right to do so in the conditions, you have the door open, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Well, can I ask you to take that up as a...
Yes, I absolutely will.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I've got a question. So if we can go to the first page where we...
Chairman, I'm unclear. Are we the public hearing still open?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Probably need to finish that.
Do we have any other individuals wishing to speak in opposition?
Julie Downs, 13462 222nd Street. I want to thank you for letting us have the opportunity to speak. I will say it's been noted by various county officials over the past 4 meetings that there's been a long history with this property. We call the sheriff, but the sheriff is only doing code. They don't criminal, and there's been no one time that we know of in over 20 years from the county that has gone to an event and supervised it. Not one time. And I have documented numerous non-SUP events over these years. I've documented noise problems. I have documentation where I sent in that our 3-year-old grandson, we could not put him outside because he couldn't hear instructions because of their rodeos. And my grandson's 14 now, and we're still dealing with this. The music is so loud, we can't go in our bathroom inside our house. And I'm going to show you why here in just a second. He just said they did non-SUP events. That packet you have, our compliance, we hired a compliance agency for $25,000 to do research on this event because we're sick of it. I've spent 23 years documenting and sending photos and pictures to the county. You are well aware of it, of all the problems that have been at this ranch. So, they were, by the way, supposed to do a temporary special use permit, if I'm correct, on July 24 or 27th of 2024. And the county commissioners were very clear they had to do that before they ever got more of these events. And guess what? We had our compliance agent hired by that time to go see about animal treatment and alcohol. And we live right there. They didn't do the event. And they didn't tell the county, did they, that they did the event or not? Did they tell you they did?
No, there's no requirement for them to report.
Okay, well, they didn't do the event, and the county didn't know it, and they did not know whether or not they even met all the requirements before that event was done. But I'm telling you, it was not done. I'm telling you that they did it probably because if you have no event, you have no complaints. That was a temporary, the commissioners were very clear about that, to do that. So it should have been stopped. It should have been stopped. That packet you have, I want you to look at it. It is all from their social media site. It is RJ Ranch. That we provide documentation. It's off their websites. So I want to tell you, it's a business. I've said this for years. It's a business. The ads are in the packet. They have a website for RJ Ranch with ads running a business. They include phone numbers to call for information, Ticketon to purchase tickets, admission fees, event sponsors, the sale of alcohol, choritas, bulltail pulling, horse roping. There's an embedded video, a commercial that's done. When they came here during these 4 meetings with all of you and the commissioners, not once did they say they were running a high-end business. This business is going throughout, they have tentacles throughout the state. So what we did was, I want to pull out one event. For example, June 17th, this is on their website. Non-SUP, 6 non-SUP events. He just told you he didn't do non-SUP events. 2023, June 17th, VIP seats are flying out. Here's their stage. This is why we can't hear, and we're not close to them. On June 18th, 2023, Noe Hernandez posted, and this is a video. We were told that we couldn't bring videos, but our agent who does work for the Attorney General says every county has let them do videos. This is a video that shows what our agent estimates 1,000 people at this event.
You say agent, you're talking about the
Compliance agent that we pay $25,000 to hire to solve this. This photo will show you all the people at this non-SUP business event. Who's paying taxes? If there's 1,000 people times 40, that's $40,000.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I know I can't say, but if they're going to call us racist, we should be able to reply to that.
We're not going to go down that road, ma'am, but stay put. Stay put.
Well, I would just like to have you ask me what I did for a career, if they want to call me racist. Does anybody want to ask?
It doesn't matter.
Oh, it did, because you spent a long time talking about it.
No. Let's,
But I do want to say thank you, gentlemen, for letting us speak.
hang on a minute. Don't go anywhere. I need to see if we've got some questions for you real quick.
How far away from the stage, because the stage is in the lower left-hand corner of the property, how far away is your home from the stage?
It goes across the creek and down and over. But there's neighbors that said they could hear it for 4 miles away. No, I don't know exactly, Dave.
You have a
100 feet,
GIS
200
picture
feet,
of it?
1,000 feet?
700, 1,000 feet. The stage is right on the property line. But I want you to see these videos.
Well, I'm interested in the picture. This is what you put in your packet.
Mhm.
This is at their facility
Yeah.
on Contrail. All the sound lighting, everything coming up over the stage.
Yeah.
All of that's out there.
Yes, sir. We can't hear in our bathroom.
He's not coming back up. He's giving him the mouth.
But I do want to say we have to introduce these videos. They're allowed in every county.
We do not have the capability to play the video, which she is well aware of. We've told her this a number of times. We'd be happy to play it if we could. We don't have that ability.
You can use a phone, you can bring a computer, you can use Skype. Every county is letting videos. And if you saw these, you wouldn't let this.
I still have more questions.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Okay, so roughly in the last year, and we won't go into compliance with SUP, how many events have been held of any type?
They applied for the temporary special use. They haven't done any because they're
No
applying.
events in the last year? I'm just trying to get an idea for the scale, because we've got on the table that they're asking for 15 events a year plus whatever, birthday parties and so forth for family. So I'm trying to get an idea of the scale, because they've said maybe none, but how many in the last year, calendar year, events have there been that have created the noise and the issues that you're talking about?
There's none, because they're in the process of applying and they want to look good.
Okay. In the year previous then, in 2023, I'm just trying to get an idea of...
There were 3 events, and I documented and sent them to the county.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes.
All right, do we have any other of those that wish to speak in opposition of this request? Any other additional information to be presented, ma'am?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify, in that packet that was at your chairs when you entered in here today, there was a stack of correspondence that staff had received after the agenda packet was sent to you. I will read. We got an email from Christina Miller, an email from Carly Ariano, and I'm sorry if I butchered that name, an email with attachments from Leavenworth County Humane Society, an email with attachment from Pro Serve Legal, and then we got handed correspondence from Mrs. Julie Downs Hershey, from Mr. Bigsby, and from Dr. Joan M. Murnan. We do not read these as part of a public hearing. We provide these to you. That is our policy. I just wanted to make sure we noted every single correspondence that you had received for this public hearing.
Read them all.
Okay.
So,
no.
My one question, and that's to our attorney here. We're at this whole process because they know they illegally had events. You took them to court. You said, come to compliance. You need a SUP, and that's why we're here. In this basic, in a nut jar, correct?
That's correct. May I ask, have we closed the public hearing? Or are we still?
I'm sorry. We're still discussing. You answered the question. There's no additional information to be presented. I was looking at these pictures again. My bad. The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Kansas law allows for a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 calendar days after the date of the public hearing. Additional information on the filing of a protest petition can be obtained from the Office of the Planning and Zoning. Are there questions and comments from the members of the Commission? There you go. Now you can drive.
Go ahead and ask your question.
Misty? So basically, they were out of compliance. We knew they were doing events without a SUP. You've taken them to court. You said you need to become compliant with the SUP. You need to file it. Here's the process, and that's why we're here, to bring them in compliance.
That is correct, but I do want to note that as part of that, the goal of Codes Court is compliance. It is not fines. Like, a fine will not stop the aggravation when you have a code violation that others complain of. So part of that codes case was you need to be in compliance, whether that is do not have any more events or proceed with seeking a TSUP or an SUP. It was always understood that is not guaranteed. There's no agreement in Codes Court that can mandate that the Planning Commission or the Commission grant that. So, long answer for you, but.
Well, got it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I could.
Yes, sir.
And I would ask my fellow commissioners to consider this as I go through this. I took down the 8 areas that our council told us that the Board of County Commissioners asked us to look at in addition to the conditions that we had and based on the new information that we got.
Yes, sir.
So it's going to help me to think my way through the decision if I go down these here real quick and we kind of agree or disagree that, you know, we've met the county commissioners' intent of considering these issues. Okay. So the first is security on site. Not only in the narrative, but also in the discussion tonight, that they've talked about that they have security on site, and they always have said 3 to 10 employees, including security. So I think that's been answered. The real issue was it's less on security and more on compliance, and I don't think we have an answer for that. As I listened to or read the review of the Board of County Commissioners meeting, they had talked about should we hire instead of a security person, it was essentially a compliance person to be on site when they're holding their events. And specifically, I believe the rodeo event is what is our biggest hang up here as we go through. So while I have considered what the Board of County Commissioners has asked us to do, I don't think there's anything that we can do on that one, that we should do. I think the applicant has provided security, and so therefore that condition I don't think we need to add.
Commissioner Tyson, that was the purpose of my asking them to go back and look at their policy and about compliance.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and that's a discussion that we're going to have a lot of, I suspect.
Thank you.
Second, the licensed alcohol vendors. It's in the narrative that they'll have the vendors come in, that they will not, and we talked about this the last time, I think alcohol has been covered sufficiently, and we do not need an additional condition.
Which one is it that we stuck it on there? I'm looking at 1 to 13.
Yep, it's on, I believe.
I'm speed reading here.
It's on the next page.
Go to the next, there we go.
22.
22.
Local, state, federal.
Yeah, I'll get to that one in a second. But I don't think there's a need for additional conditions associated with alcohol. Third, they asked us to consider following the law. It's in the narrative. It's in our condition number 22 that all shall comply with all local, state, and federal rules and regulations that may be applicable. I think if it were me, I may recommend that we add one specifically in there, since the issue of rodeos is an issue that we've discussed significantly this evening, that we specifically say, and this especially applies, or something to the effect of this especially applies to horse tripping. Just so that everybody understands that, we understand that there is an issue with it. And
do you want to reference the PRCA rodeo?
PRCA, we can reference the state.
Because that's not a Kansas state.
No, it is, the horse tripping was a Kansas state statute.
Okay, so we answer that in 22.
We
But you're
answer it in
saying-
22. My question to the commissioners is, do we want to amplify about horse tripping, since we've spent a lot of time on that tonight?
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, take that out.
They got,
For the requirement for the out-of-state animals must be certified, the applicant, I think, has answered that. I don't know if he checks it or not. It might be for his own
Safety for bringing
safety
animals from out of state.
and compliance that he does it, but I don't think we need to put a condition on it. They wanted to talk about tail pulling and horse tripping, specifically number 5. We've found that so far tail pulling is not in violation of Kansas law. It may be in the near future, but everything we've heard is that it is not in violation, although horse tripping is. And so the horse tripping is in our condition number 22, and in their narrative, I would also point out, in which they said that they would comply with all laws. Number 6, insurance increased. I'm not certain that we should increase the liability insurance to the county based on everything that we've heard here tonight. I think it would be singling them out if we asked to increase from what we do to all of the other event type of SUPs. Number 7, inspect the bleachers. We've discussed inspecting the bleachers. There are no bleachers. I don't think we talk about that.
well,
Number 8, they had asked us to consider a condition, or they had asked us to ask the questions about licensed vet on site. Due to the expense, these are not sanctioned PRCA rodeos. I don't think it's necessary to single them out for this if other places are not required under their SOP.
What about the on-call idea?
I like the on-call, and we could throw a condition on there that they must be able to satisfy an on-call vet.
I don't want to single anybody out either, but when it's just a single time that we've had this,
I agree.
I think
on-call, I think on-call also gives them some added protection in some way.
Right.
I've got an on-call vet. I own 2 horses, 4 cows, and a donkey. I can call my vet right now and say, hey, man, my horse is down, and he will be there. I don't think we need to tell somebody that has livestock, hey, man, we need something in writing that says you can call Doc Martin anytime you want, and he's going to be there within 10 minutes.
We're not going that way.
Yeah.
They're having an event.
Yeah.
Specifically notified. That's a hypothetical accident.
Right, yeah.
I'm saying on-call, like, there is a vet. He knows about specifically notified there's going to be an event.
Yeah, the vet knows, so that the vet's not in Cancun that weekend.
It's not an ambiguous citizen argument. It's a
Okay. So I agree with you on that. So those are the 8 conditions, or the 8 issues that our council told us we should consider. I think we've considered them all, and I think...
with exception to one thing.
Okay, please.
There was something that was brought up that had to do with item number 15 in the original list.
Yeah, I was getting to that. But that wasn't brought up by the county commissioners.
Please continue.
Thank you. Okay, on the item number 15, which the applicant requested that we remove, item 15 as it applies to amplifiers, amplifying sound, because that was a specific in there. As I look through some of these pictures, some of the sound systems that they had there, when people come to play on their stage, they get those those rather large sound systems that, quite frankly, would violate the 60 decibels at the property lines a few miles away.
Yep.
So the question we have this evening, I think, before we send it back to the Board of County Commissioners is, what do we do about professional amplification systems?
My recommendation is we remove it because we've got it where it says noise from the guests shall be limited to the 60 decibels at the property line. Now, they put their stage on the property line. That's their fault. Which means
I think that's
in compliance with all. Yeah. Yeah.
That falls under character of the neighborhood.
Character of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If they willfully violate that, it's the same as any other use.
That's what I was getting at is I would get rid of the amplifiers because you can't do any sound with anything without it. But,
that might be
the
a
60
little bit-
decibels is pretty limited.
I mean, the amplifiers, no amplifiers, and I brought it up at the last meeting and
Yeah, I
made
know,
certain that everybody
I got you.
focused on that bad boy.
Yep.
Because it didn't make sense at the time, but, okay, so we should eliminate amplifiers,
That's my recommendation.
but we maintain the 60 dB
Yes.
at property line.
60 dB for reference, noise-wise, is about, if you stood within 3 to 4 feet of a in-house propane generator. All of you have seen those, right? That's about what 60 dB is to the ear. About 3 feet away from that, an insulated generator is going to generate about 60 dB.
Okay.
That's pretty small.
It's pretty small.
So then the question is what is reasonable decibels? Because we're basically saying there's not going to be a band of any kind now.
Well, the intent is to guard at the property lines, to limit the amount of incurrence to adjoining property owners from anything that's occurring
Yeah,
on
we've-
this
we've
side.
done that
So
on a
that's the
number of our
intention of the
SUPs.
60 dB, is to limit the amount of sound that spills over that. Now, where you locate your stage and your sound system will directly impact that dB level. And wherever
Okay,
you
I
put
understand.
it.
I understand now.
And
Yeah.
that's back to fairness, and that's what we do for everybody else.
That's-
So if that means you can't-
that's what I was gonna ask. That's what we do to everybody else.
Acres.
Yeah.
If you have 170 acres, that's less of a, and that's just circumstance.
Right.
But that's what we do for everybody
But that's
else.
the same, yeah, that's exactly right. It's
That's
what
what
we
I
do
asked.
for every other one.
We're staying the same on everybody. Yeah, my recommendation is they move that stage. You can't even have a portable Honda generator on the fence line because you're in violation.
Put it wherever you like it, as long as it doesn't increase over the 60
Yeah,
dB at the property.
yeah, they understand it. They got it.
And Commissioner Tice said it all boils down to the only addition or changing or anything was the potential of the on-call notified veterinarian.
That would, as I've gone through and I've heard you agree and disagree, that would be my only added condition, that we would change number 15 to remove the line that says no amplifiers, and that we would add number 24, that a licensed vet shall be on call for rodeo events, not the weddings and this that. and the other.
From can I ask a question from an enforcement standpoint? Do you want that in a written statement from the applicant on who that veterinarian is going to be, that we, or simply we're just going to have this statement as a condition?
I think it would be anything that would be inspectable if you went out there.
Yeah, because if they had a name, that name could change tomorrow.
Again, just from an enforcement standpoint, I want to know what's expected. So.
I don't need it.
So I'm trying to think about if we add that as a condition, how one would prove that they did or did not comply with it. So, it's probably unfair to say you're going to have this vet will always be available and can't do their vacations. I'm really looking for ideas on how we could, I don't like to have a condition that's not measurable. And so I don't know if it's having them providing a list to go in the file of vets that may be on call, but it seems hard to prove this.
In my mind,
Any one of these 5 vets, we don't know which one they had to call. But we could randomly call, hey, did you do an event? You get called to this event. Did you know about this event? Set the number, because I know there are probably different ones. Oh, he's on trip.
I don't know if that's a requirement.
No, that's pushing it.
My recommendation is we not add it in there.
I'm just thinking about any rodeo though. Like,
Yeah.
In the future, too.
That's why I don't know if anybody can answer.
I don't know.
What type of stipulations are at the fairgrounds? Because if there's a rodeo and people are paying to enter and bring animal stuff,
Yeah.
I would want an added layer or something.
Well, the ones at the county are generally sanctioned by the professional
PRCA.
what is it, the PRCA, Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association.
Yeah, I would
So,
agree. I just don't know for sure.
you know, I mean,
Kyle LaRoche was the vet out at the fairgrounds for years.
I
He was
would
there.
I would probably argue to keep your animals alive, you're going to need a vet. I mean, just as a general matter of
Right.
general practice.
That's what we're
And-
talking about.
I know. Just from an enforcement standpoint, it's almost impossible because we're going to make an attempt to enforce these SUPs. If it's one of the criteria, we're going to attack it. So we need to know an avenue to achieve that by.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The only thing for me where the delineation line is,
Sure.
is individuals and their animals.
Mhm.
Now we're talking about an animal.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at it through a little bit different lens in that regard.
Sure, and again, this is kind of the reason why we defer to state law.
But have we
As
said that about horses?
well, it depends.
And if we haven't, I don't want to seem unfair.
Right, and again, at the end of the day, I think if the safest, from a staff perspective, the safest operation is to operate under state law, to make sure that you're meeting that same minimum requirement regardless of who, where, and why.
So can we rearrange the sequence, the order of these?
Sure you can.
Because like 21 and 22 should be number 1 and number 2.
They can be
You know what I'm
arranged.
saying?
They can be arranged in any fashion you want.
Yeah, I'd like to rearrange these to right up front, right? The SUP shall comply with all.
They're all equally the same, though.
I know. I'm just saying that you got 23 of them, and 2 of the most important ones that we got here is the public nuisance that was a big issue, and the SUP state law, and it's buried at the very bottom. I'm just. My recommendation is just move it to the top.
We can
comply with all the state law and whatever, and then all the rest of the stuff just falls in line. I mean, it's just right up front.
We can do that.
Number 22 to number 1. That's all I'm saying.
Number 1 to number 22. Say aye.
Okay.
I also wanted to just mention staff's recommendation of 5 years term limit is still listed.
No, we're
Yes,
not going for that.
I know. I just wanted to make sure that you guys still wanted to uphold the 1 year.
I think they want to maintain the 1 year too, because my interpretation of it is they're tired of going back and forth, and they want to show proof.
So, Chairman, just to reiterate, the reason she brought that up is just so you know, we haven't changed our recommendation from the first time it came through. And
Right.
again, you're not bound by our 5-year recommendation. We put that in place because of intensity of use so that you know why we're recommending 5 years.
I thought we were already clear at the last meeting that it was going to be a 1-year SUP.
I think you were. But again, from a staff standpoint, we're
Right, and I
reiterating
understand that.
nothing has changed from a
Right.
staff standpoint.
Right. So I think we're all on agree 1 year. Let them show that they're going to do the right thing, and then they come back in a year. We set up here again. They're going to be like, no complaints. We didn't do this. Okay, now we can talk about an extension of a SUP.
Understood.
One last thing I want to address. It's been said that the sheriff wrote something to say we don't need to approve. I don't have that.
That was in your packet.
Was it? I
believe it's.
It's buried.
And why?
I agree.
I mean, I thought I read. Oh, I did. Yeah. Okay, so we discussed the sheriff's deputies called out there. None last year. I can't remember what the number was in the last time we did, but it was very few, and it was referenced cars parked on the road and something else. But
There
they
was
were never.
nearly 100 phone calls over, I believe it was a 10-year or 15-year span.
How many calls?
100. And 2 of those resulted in 2 traffic citations, as I recall.
Well, right. Yeah, let me see that real quick, because you pulled it out. I've been sitting here going through it. Oh, I got it right here. I turned right to it. Sorry. I've been sitting here looking at it, and it's like Leavenworth Board of County Commissioners. I'm going right past it because it's from the sheriff. It was dated February the 4th, 2025.
That's
From the
time for a meeting.
Yeah.
Then he comes in and opens it all up.
Yeah. So the question and everything that we brought was that of the 100, 2 were traffic. Nothing was ever cited.
No, sir.
So why now do I have a letter that says recommend not, but I got nothing from the sheriffs in the last 100 calls?
I can't tell you why. I can only tell you the information that's been submitted to us.
That was one of my notes. So
Yeah, with regards to the sheriff, they don't enforce the code, so he's going to enforce crime.
Like violation of state law, correct? Like violation of state law?
Yeah,
Oh.
statute.
yeah, so if there's calls about violation of state law of animal cruelty and all these things are going on,
If I'm not mistaken, that's a criminal charge.
right? So wouldn't that be a reason for him to actually go all the way to the back and look versus
I can't
none of
answer
them
for
have
the
ever even been to
sheriff.
the
I
back and
can
even seen it?
only answer for planning and zoning.
Hey, please, y'all, please. I got you. I gave y'all time. Let us finish ours. Thanks. I respect every one of you. Allow us time. We've been here a long time. So I still have a question with the sheriff. I made that point in the last public. It's clearly obvious I need to go and sit down with him. I need to find out what the heck is going on, you know? So, okay. Nothing against him. Not saying that. I'm just saying I need to go and sit down with him and find out what the heck's going on. Okay. All
I'd like
right.
to make one suggestion, Doug.
Okay.
Comment. You're going to make the motion.
I am.
And all we have to do is, I think, is reference the items that the county commissioners sent back to us in consideration of these items, and then pass the same resolution the same way we did.
With a 1 year.
With the 1 year. After 1 year.
Now, Mark,
Now, this isn't
1 year,
us
county
singing.
commissioners, the ones that are sitting out there.
Hang on a minute. We're not singling out anybody on this 1 year. We're not. We had the opportunity to do 1 year. We had the opportunity to do 5 years. We limited it to 1 year because of all the he said, she said, and all the stuff that's been brought in front of us, and then all the stipulations that we've got. So we stuck to the 1 year, not to pick out or racism of any other kind.
And I think
they don't
they're fine
exist
with
here.
the 1 year.
I think they are too.
Just to reiterate, that is at your discretion. Any
Yep.
time frame. It's
That's it.
completely at your
I just
discretion.
want to make a point on record. We're not singling out anybody.
The sweet part about the 1 year is, a year from now, we can do this all over again.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
All right. That being said, I'll entertain a motion on this request. Let me restate this request. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission has considered case DEV 24-125, which is a special use permit for, I'm going to read these because it is listed there, even though you said, right? Because we said it's not amusement park, it's not athletic fields, it's not racetracks, but it could be, and it's not circuses, it could be carnivals with birthday parties and whatever, and fairgrounds. For outdoor events for RJ Farm as outlined in the posted agenda. Special use permit for a business. Question. Do I have a motion?
Do I have?
Doug, that's you. You got the
You've
whole
been
list
nominated.
there.
You've been going all night, Doug.
My mind is.
Yeah.
Commissioner Tysted, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
You did a good job reciting them all. Go back to
Yeah.
that's what was
You don't
recommended.
even have to do it.
Yeah, here it is in front of you.
Consideration
We got somebody typing pretty fast here.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, but I have to amend that a little bit. Mr. Chairman, I find that the special use permit request complies with the golden factors and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV 24-125, based on the recommendation of planning staff and the findings as set forth in the staff report. In addition, I recommend that the condition number 15 of the staff recommendation remove the line that says amplifiers may not be used. I also recommend that in condition number 22 that they follow all state and local regulations and laws, that we add a statement that this particularly applies to horse tripping. I also recommend that we add condition number 24, which is that the applicant must be able to provide on request a licensed vet on call when advertising for a rodeo function as part of their special use permit. And finally, I recommend that this special use permit be limited to 1 year so that we can ensure that all of these conditions are met. Is that legally sufficient?
You did a very good job of outlining your motion.
Wow. Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Discussion on the motion. Dan's thinking. Let me go to the right. Do I have a motion on the right side?
A motion?
I'm sorry. Do I have discussion?
I thought we did.
Man, I'm telling you, we've been going at it for 3 hours.
Do we need to moving the 22 and
No, they can just do it. It's already on record.
Okay.
We're moving to number 1. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Discussion. All right. Let me call roll. Commissioner Bailey. Commissioner Stork.
Yes.
Commissioner Gutschall.
Yes.
Commissioner Spink.
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted.
Yes.
Commissioner Owens.
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet.
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens.
Yes.
Let the record show the SUP is approved for 1 year under these stipulations by a vote of 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than April the 2nd, 2025 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse.
Well, we're not gone yet.
Commissioner, I would strongly recommend that we push this work session to a future date.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What, tomorrow?
I'm okay with tomorrow.
Okay. With that being said, I move that we adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Means adjourn. Thank you for tonight. And thank you for everyone who came and spoke tonight.